Dark nights alone, in the zone. Heart turns to stone, feel it to the bone. Clock ticks loud, can't escape the cloud. In the crowd, unbowed, thoughts wrapped in shroud. Falsy thoughts race, life's a twisted place. No time to erase, I'll just keep the pace. Streetlights glare, danger's always there. In the lair we prepare, no room for care. Shadow paths we trace, haunted smiles on our face. No dreams left to chase, locked in this space. Silence screams loud, destiny's proud. Can't stand the crowd, darkness is our shroud. Clock ticks loud, can't escape the cloud. In the crowd, unbowed, thoughts wrapped in shroud. Falsy thoughts race, life's a twisted place. No time to erase, I just keep the pace. Streetlights glare, danger's always there. In the lair we prepare, no room for care. Shadow paths we trace, haunted smiles on our face. No dreams left to chase, locked in the space. Silence screams loud, destiny's proud. Can't stand the crowd, darkness is our shroud. Dark nights alone, in the zone. Heart turns to stone, feel it to the bone. Clock ticks loud, can't escape the cloud. In the crowd, unbowed, thoughts wrapped in shroud. Falsy thoughts race, life's a twisted place. No time to erase, I'll just keep the pace. Streetlights glare, danger's always there. In the lair we prepare, no room for care. Shadow paths we trace, haunted smiles on our face. No dreams left to chase, locked in this space. Silence screams loud, destiny's proud. Can't stand the crowd, darkness is our shroud.
All right, guys. All right, y'alls. We're going to go ahead and get it started. We're going to go ahead and get the live started. Y'all see the topic on the board? All right, y'all. Y'all see the topic on the board? For being here and joining in. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all for being here and joining in. We about got the live started. If you're watching over from YouTube, you should see the live starting now. Thank y'all so much for being here. We're gonna go ahead and start liking the live. All right, y'all. So wherever you're watching from, thank you for watching. If you're watching from over on the YouTube, you see the topic on the screen, and you also see the number to call in. You see the topic on the screen. You also see the number to call in. If you'd like to talk about what I have on the board, go ahead and call in 786-530-5941. I'm going to open up the call line in just a second. Call lines are going to be open in just about a moment. All right. Thank y'all so much for being here once again. Thanks y'all for being here once again. We got the call line just about open, so we're gonna go ahead and hey, what's going on, Kahan? What's up, Kahan? All right, y'all. So call line is now open and the link is pinned. If you're watching me over on the Decon Junction, you can go ahead and call in now. If you watch me over on Volsy Thoughts on my personal channel, you can go ahead and call in now. We're just gonna be waiting around, just waiting for a call. And while we're waiting, we'll have the my whole music playing while I wait for somebody to come. Y'all see the topic on the board. It says, why should black people be Republican, conservative, or MAGA? Reason why we should be either of those things. So let me know why you think I should be. All right, we have Mel Gilliam 0462 over on my YouTube. The question asked here is, let me just go ahead and put it up on the screen real quick. The question asked here is, main reason in my book is why you should support the same party. I think you meant that owned your ancestors on this question. Well, I think you're trying to say that the Democrats own slaves, and the Democratic Party in of itself didn't own slaves. Now, the Democratic Party in the South, yeah, did support the Confederacy, right? But I think we should separate the party itself and the person who actually owned the slaves. It didn't matter what party you were. They were all owning slaves. You know what I mean? Like the founding fathers owned slaves. I think I think we got to probably like our 10th president before we had a president that didn't own slaves. Yeah, I mean, I forgot who that was, who the 10th president was. But like, it didn't matter what party you were, you owned slaves. It also didn't matter what party you were that supported the KKK, because the KKK was very, very active in the Midwest of the United States. And the Midwest of the United States at the height of the KKK was majority Republican. So I love to put this on the Democrats instead of putting it on where it should be. White people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why I love to put this on one party only and not understand the nuance and history of it. White people own slaves. White people benefited from slavery. I mean, it didn't matter what party they were. And not only that, I'm not even a Democrat. The party that supports the Confederacy today are the Republicans. So it's like, it's the Republicans who always talking about waving the Confederate flag and being part of our history. And the Confederates literally fought for slavery. So it's like, I'm always confused over why y'all blame the Democrats for this. And literally the Republicans support the country or the rebellion to keep slavery today. But y'all want to put it on the Democrats. Like, it's so weird to me that we won't put the blame on the people that it belongs to, which was white folks. White people back then, no matter what party they were part of, owned slaves. All right, y'all. So if y'all would like to go ahead and call in, go ahead and call in. Numbers on the board. Hey, Billy, the number's right there. You can call in if you like. So we're just going to go ahead and give this some time, wait for some folks to come in. And like I said, I appreciate anybody who would like to have a conversation. Not a problem. Let's go ahead and talk and have that discussion. So like I said, y'all see the topic on the board. Why should black people be Republican, conservative, or MAGA? Why should black people be Republican, conservative, or MAGA? If you would like to go ahead and come in, I agree with that. Will over on my TikTok says shouldn't be either, which I definitely agree with. Every single movement in America that was for every single movement that black people led for civil rights, for equal opportunity, etc., was by leftists. Every single one of them. MLK was not a Republican, y'all. He wasn't. You know what I mean? So every movement that would that for civil rights, for equal rights, was started by people who are left wing in this country. W.B. Du Bois was a socialist. Malcolm X will be much more of a leftist today. MLK, straight up socialist. Bayard Rustin was a socialist. Marsha P. Johnson was also a leftist and a socialist. The Black Panther Party, they were Marxists. Like every single Black Power movement in America was always a leftist movement, always. All right, y'all, we got a call.
From
Jacob, how's it going? Are you at least 18 and are you a black person?
Am I 18? Yeah. Am I black? No.
Okay, cool. Do you think that black people should be Republican, conservative, or MAGA?
I say conservative. I don't
Why?
know about Republican or MAGA, but conservative, sure.
Why?
If you look back in history, a large majority of, like back in the 60s, 70s, a large majority of the black population was conservative. And during that time was one of the times when you see black households had their highest incomes, their least amount of, unemployment, the highest rate of black fathers in the households. I don't believe that conservatism is bad. I believe conservatism and progressivism both go hand in hand, where they kind of need each other. And in my opinion, having conservative values is not a bad thing. And I believe that conservative values in terms of economics today is kind of the only politics that I follow nowadays, is the economics. And I think that conservative politics and capitalism is probably going to be the best way for anybody of any race, including black people, to be able to improve their lives.
Okay.
And
let's go ahead and analyze that a bit. When it came to capitalism, has capitalism been good to black people, or has it been bad to black people, or is it a mix?
A mix, but you could say it about any race.
Okay.
You know?
No, I think it's actually been good for white people and bad for black people, because when it comes to capitalism, like what started capitalism in the West was basically mercantilism, but that also led to slavery, right? Slavery was completely capitalist. So when we say that, you know, capitalism will be good for anybody, capitalism always leads to exploitation. And the group of people that's exploited the most, at least in America, in the West, is black people. But I would also say that back in the 60s, if we look at what was going on in for black society, half the population was in poverty. It was 55% poverty. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about abject poverty, talking about third world conditions. That's how it was back then, until the civil rights movement, which was a more leftist movement, fought for economic equality. You see what I'm saying? So when we look back into the 60s, people always say, oh, the homes were together. They were still poor as shit. So that's not better for us, isn't it?
So it was poor as shit, but there was a lot of people all over the place that were poor as shit. It wasn't just particularly black people. I mean, yes, black people, the overall population. I mean, obviously, I don't know the statistic that you're saying that where 50% was poor. That seems a little higher than what I have read, but I'll just take that as face value.
Right. So
But
if half the
when it comes
population
to
is in poverty, what exactly are we conserving?
well, again, like I said, I'm taking is an accurate representation of the data because that seems like it's much higher. That's a much higher percentage than I've ever heard of the black population being in poverty.
Back in the
So
60s?
I mean,
Back in the 60s, it was, they were about 55% poverty.
Okay, well,
Now,
I've got nothing
nowadays,
to say to that.
nowadays it's about 25%, but back then it was about 55%. It got much better. We'll give you that. It got much better.
Yeah.
But what the thing is, what I'm saying is that every time black people have fought for rights in this country, it always came from the left. Like MLK was a socialist, the Black Panthers were Marxists, Marsha P. Johnson was a socialist, W.B. Du Bois was a socialist, Langston Hughes was a socialist, James Baldwin was a socialist. All them people who fought for rights, the vast majority of them, with the only like the only one that has a market like the difference, like the one that's the only noticeable difference was Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was a capitalist, but he believed in communal capitalism. Like, you use the profits in order to build up society. You don't use the profits just to enrich yourself. You use the profits to go back into society, to go back into like the people, the community, for racial uplift, which is basically communalism. You know what I'm saying? So like, even his capitalism was not the capitalism we see today. It was more of a social capitalism.
And there's aspects of the social capitalism that you're talking about that, yeah, there's good parts of it. If it gets too far on the social, I guess the socialist part is something that I think is problematic and dangerous for everybody. And this is getting a little bit off topic, but to go back to the who was always driving the wagon, I guess, as to helping black people. If I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, was Abraham Lincoln a Democrat or was he a Republican?
He was Republican.
Hello?
Yeah, he was a Republican.
Yeah. And so, I mean, in my opinion, Abraham Lincoln is one of, if not the greatest president we ever had. Because I'm a big advocate for people being treated equally, regardless of race, class, income. Just people should be treated equally with respect. And I know that as a Republican, he was the leader of the Republican Party. He led the charge to the abolition of slavery. And yeah, even though after that, it didn't completely make the playing field even, it was one of the biggest steps forward towards getting us to where we are today. And so, I mean, we can cherry pick and say all these Republicans during this time period were bad for black people, but there's also a lot of examples where Republicans did things that were good for black people as well, and good for like everybody. And that's not me.
Let me ask you a question. No, I'll go. Let me ask you a question. Did Lincoln actually care about freeing the slaves, or did he care about keeping the Union together?
They can both go hand in hand. I mean,
they can, but Lincoln himself said that if he can keep the Union together and not free any slave, that's exactly what he would do. He didn't believe in equality. He wanted the black people to actually. He said that, yeah. He said that if he can free, if he can keep the Union together and not free any slave, back to Africa.
Well, did he end up doing that though?
Yes, there were people who did go back to Africa, and he did end up.
What I'm saying is, did he? So you're saying he said that if he could keep the Union together and not free slaves, he would. Mm-hmm. But that's not what he did. What he did was he kept the Union together and he freed slaves. And so for me, something that I've always lived my life by is I could care less what somebody says to a degree. Obviously, there's extreme things that can be said. I care less about what somebody says and more about their actions and what they do.
Yeah,
And
but
so,
what he did was the Emancipation Proclamation was basically for slaves living in the South. There were still slaves living in the North. He didn't free them. And the other problem was is that, you know, at that point he didn't really have power in the South. But yeah, sure, he won the Civil War, and then that abolished slavery. They passed the 13th Amendment in order to abolish slavery. All that is good and well, right? What Lincoln did was great about, you know, freeing the slaves. Like that was great. The Emancipation Proclamation was a great thing for him to do. I don't think anybody disagrees with that, right? I think my main issue is that he didn't actually care about equality.
and regardless of if he cared about it or not, he still took everybody into in a direction to create that in and of itself created a path towards more equality, you know? And it's easy to like look back at everybody in history and say from our vantage point and where we are and where we've developed and say, oh, this person had a bad motive and this person didn't want to do this correctly. And it's easy to go back and like cherry pick and like talk about those points. But a result of their actions has created a country here where, in my opinion, a lot of people disagree. I think that the United States is one of the, if not the most, like, beneficial places for Black people or people of any minority group to be at, to be able to be successful and create a good life for themselves. And all of that.
Can we say that about any first world country?
I don't actually think so. No, not any first world country.
So we can't go to Canada and be successful there?
I'm not saying Canada, but what I'm talking about is you see that in the United States, as a result of the work that many, many, many people have done, whether Republican or Democrat, it's created an environment where people can be successful. You can look at different countries like the Scandinavian countries, where the population group is a very successful population group. They do well for themselves, but you also see that the the demographics are 96, 97% white over there, you know?
Yeah, so it's because a lot of us can't go there. But what I'm saying is that, like, we love to portray America as the city in the hill, but America still has a lot or most of its issues from like discrimination didn't end, especially object discrimination didn't end until like the early 70s, right? And even after that, there was still covert discrimination, even still today. You see what I'm saying? So when we have all these issues still, we're not exactly the shining city on the hill. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like there's still all these issues to resolve.
Yeah, tons of work still to do, you know? It's never, to me, it's not like, I don't know if any country, whether it's us or some, say China or whatever other country, never going to get it perfect. I'd say that we're headed in a good direction. Yeah, there's a lot of divisiveness. Yeah, there's a lot of, there's discrimination, you know? Like, people are people at the end of the day, and they're going to be either racist or discriminatory if that's the way that they want to be. And I just think that,
in my view, our society at large is already discriminatory, because look what happened after we got a Black president. We voted in someone who's basically a rapist fascist, just after the reaction of a Black person being president. Like, it's, you know, you see kind of how kind of insane that is, right?
I can see how you're coming to that. What's it called? Conclusion. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's they voted him in as a complete foil to Obama, but I see the point you're making. I personally, I never voted for Trump because I don't like the guy.
Yeah,
but I think him getting voted in was more of a personal opinion. People on the right, not a bit extreme, because they were upset that they felt that they were getting silenced across the country with like cancel culture and stuff. I think it was more of a free speech. We're going to fight back and take our free speech. And this guy here, he says whatever the fuck he wants, and I like that attitude. I think that was more, in my opinion, why he got voted in. I don't think it was.
But the issue is that people always had free speech. They just weren't free from consequences. They want to be free from the consequences.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I'm not saying that that's how I felt or that's what I think. I think that that's what the mentality was.
No, it was. That's what the mentality was. They felt that they were losing power and they can't say stuff anymore, and therefore they didn't have the right to say it. Like, it's like you always have the right to say it. You just have to deal with the consequences, which is what exactly happened. But hey, brother, we are out of time now. But I appreciate you calling in. We're gonna move on to the next caller, but I appreciate you though. All right.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. It's a good conversation.
No problem. Have a good one. All right, guys. Thank y'all so much for being here. Keep tapping on that screen. We're going to move on to the next caller, a Vavu. I did invite you up. The rules of my live is that if you're saying something in the comments of either the videos, whether that be over on YouTube or over on TikTok, I'm going to invite you up, and I'd just rather have the conversation with you instead of like going back and forth in the comments. We're going to move on to Queen. Queen, how's it going? Are you at least 18? And do you think black people should be Republican, conservative, or MAGA?
I'm 50 years old, and I believe that people can vote whatever they think it's good for their communities. At this time, as someone who is from an immigrant African background, I always vote for the local. I don't care what they are. I have to hear them because I can see them. I can go to their office. It's in my area. But when it comes to federal, I always look at what they are saying, not necessarily the party, but mostly I lean towards Democrats. Okay. I don't think that if you are an immigrant, that what's his name, Trump is your friend, or the way that the party happened now, it's basically telling you not to come near them. And it's okay. I don't. And I will vote Democrat. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Cool. I agree. Thank you so much, Queen. All right, guys. Once again, we're back on hold, y'all. So go ahead and call in if you would like. We could go ahead and have that conversation. Whether you're over on the Deconstruction Junction, like I said, guys, I'm not reading all the comments. Go ahead and call in if you disagree. And if you're watching over on the Volsy Thoughts channel, go ahead and call in if you disagree. I'm not sure if anyone's disagreeing over on my channel. Not sure if you disagree over on channel, but if you are, go ahead and call in, and I appreciate you. Yo, if you're watching over on the TikTok, go ahead and keep tapping that screen, y'all. Keep tapping that screen so we can go ahead and get someone to get a what you say, a Democratic Socialist or a Social Democrat. I would say that I'm a Democratic Socialist. Social Democrats kind of want to keep the capitalism in place, while Social Democrats kind of want to keep the capitalism in place, while Democratic Socialists are saying that capitalism is basically the in-between between capitalism and full-fledged socialism, and for us to get rid of capitalism, at least. I think Democratic Socialists at least understand that we need to move past capitalism. We're just putting policies in place in order to transition, in order to do that. So I would say I'm more of a Democratic. So I would say I'm a socialist, as a matter of fact. But I will support Democratic Socialist policies in order for us to get away from capitalism. You know what I mean? I think that we need more workplace democracy, more cooperatives, more of a social economic system, more of a democratic economic system. I agree. Billionaires versus us. I agree. It's the Democrats. I mean, I said the Democrats. Well, probably them too. But yeah, it's billionaires versus us. Billionaires versus the world. But all right, guys, go ahead and keep tapping that screen, y'all. I appreciate y'all for being here. Once again, phone numbers on the board: 786-530-5941. If you'd like to talk about what I have on the board, why should black people be Republican, conservative, MAGA? Why should it be any of those things? Because I don't see a reason to be any of those things. If you do see a reason for us to be those things, go ahead and call in, and then we could talk about it. Let me know what y'all think. Let me know what y'all think. Go ahead and keep tapping on that screen, y'all. Keep tapping on that screen. We're just waiting for a caller to call in. All right, so Bill Button over on the Deconstruction Junction. You're talking about Democrats being taken over by communists. They haven't really, to tell you the truth. It'd probably be better if they were, to tell you the truth, if they were taken over by communists, but they're not. Democrats are still capitalists. Democrats are very much still capitalist. Every single Democratic a candidate for president and most governorships have been capitalists. Basically all of them, nearly all of them. It's now that Democratic candidates are more socialist. That's what we've been seeing now. Yeah, I mean, and Zohan, he's the one who started that entire movement of candidates being more socialist. That's been the case now. But to say that the Democratic Party has been taken over by communists, no, like almost nobody in the Democratic Party has says to seize the means of production. Almost none of them, I would say none of them have said to take the means of production. Even Bernie Sanders, as I said that, right? None of them have says that we need to move to a system of no currency and no state. None of them said that. You know what I'm saying? So when people say that the Democrats have been taken over by communists, I'll be wondering, like, who the hell are y'all listening to? Literally all of them have said they're capitalists, and literally all of them put in policies that benefit capitalists. So it's like, what the hell y'all be talking about, bro? Like, I'll really be confused. What do y'all think communism is? Like, don't just say words, y'all. Like, words mean things. Don't just say words. Like, what are you talking about? When you say that the Democrats have been taken over by communists, where on the party platform does it say that we're going to get rid of the state and get rid of currency and just work together as Soviets? None of them say that. No Democratic platform says that. Even the new DSA members in the that have been candidates nowadays, none of them are saying that. So I'll be so confused about what y'all be talking about, bro. All right, so Busta, go ahead and call in. Democratic Socialist Party was original party. The Fuhrer sold. Yeah, he did. The Fuhrer did sell that, right? Mustache Man did sell the fact that, you know, they were going to be a Democratic Socialist Party, and then once he got in power, the first thing he did was kill the socialists. That's the first thing he did. It's like, it's insane. The first thing that Mustache Man did when he got to power was kill the socialists. So it's like you said, Aaron. It's a boogeyman. It's like you said, Aaron. It's a boogeyman at this point. Like, using socialist or communist, it's a very scary word for people. Once you use socialist or communist, people get, you know, oh my god, just like riled up and shit. That's exactly what happens. They get all scared and riled up once you say communist or socialist. But a majority of the time, they don't even know what the hell they're talking about. They have no idea what they're talking about. It's so funny. It's so funny, man. Yeah, exactly, Aaron. When you talk about actual policies and everything like that, people typically agree with what the socialists would like to do. People typically agree with it, you know? So at this point, it's just a boogeyman for people. All right, guys. This one I'm gonna do, okay? Aaron, go ahead and come back and share this out again. But I'm gonna start the live over on the YouTube. You guys are gonna see my screen. You're gonna see a screen real quickly. That's gonna tell you to come right back. I'm starting my live over on TikTok for me to get some more callers, but I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I'm gonna be right back. Don't touch that dial. We will be
with the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way.
Just like that, we are back. All right, guys. And just like that, we are back. And just like that, we is back. All right. All right, guys. Once again, thank y'all so much for being here. Thank y'all so much for being here. I appreciate y'all. We are back. Go ahead and tap on that screen over on the TikTok side. If you're watching over from YouTube, I just have to do a quick reset over on the TikTok. If you're watching me over on YouTube, phone number's right here, 786-530-5941. Go ahead and call on in, and then we'll go ahead and have a discussion. If you're watching over from TikTok, go ahead and hit that request button. Hit that request button, and then we can go ahead and have a talk about it. So Deconstruction Junction, I do see y'all having a conversation and talking. Once again, not looking at the comments, not gonna be able to tell y'all what y'all saying. But if you want to have the conversation, if you think that black people should be conservative, Republican, or MAGA, go ahead and call in. Go ahead and call in, and then we'll have that discussion. We'll have that talk. Aaron, thank you so much for sharing the live out. Thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing the live out. Shout out to Black Atheist Rants and Ariel Almighty in the building. If y'all would like to talk about what I have on the board, once again, let me go ahead and put on my live goal right here. All right, we got a live goal up. We just got the whole music on right now. We're just waiting for someone to call in or request up over on the TikTok. Right, we're just waiting for a call in or someone to request up over on the TikTok. Oh, I love this whole music. Definitely love this whole music. All right, y'all. So again, the conversation is, why should black people be Republican, conservative, or MAGA? Yeah, MAGA is on a decline. I'm thinking that after Trump is gone, MAGA is going to decline, and we'll see the rise of America first, which is basically going to be white first. Tell you the truth, it's not going to be America first at all. We're gonna see the rise of white first. Yeah, and a lot of people there's speculation that Trump is gonna try to stay in the seat, essentially try to actually not go. Yeah, I mean, which can cause a crisis, because the Supreme Court has already said anything he does as president is legal. So it could be a situation where he tries to stay in the seat, which is going to cause a big problem, because you're going to have people defending him, and you're going to have people trying to get him out. What happened if he refuses to leave, you know? Oh yeah, Vance is going to be even worse. Vance will be worse if Trump croaks while in the seat. Yeah, I'm like the ghouls are probably going to be even worse. We got the mellow music going. So like I said, y'all, go ahead and tap on that screen. We're just waiting for any opposition, waiting for a caller. Now I see a lot of people flowing in, you know what I mean, when it comes to the streams. But don't just flow in and flow out. If you want to talk about what I have on the board, go ahead and dial that line or hit that guest button, and we can definitely talk. There are a few people who I invited up that just didn't want to talk for some reason. It's a little funny. But yeah, I agree. MAGA can't decline fast enough for me. MAGA needs to decline even more. And I see no reason to be part of them or support them. So, but if you do, oh yeah, some like he did. I did hear about HeadSec. He's appointing a whole bunch of bootlickers, basically. All right, Kenneth, go ahead and come on up, Kenneth. Let's go ahead and have that conversation. All right, Kenneth over on my TikTok says that nobody's more racist than Democrats, the soft bigotry of low expectations. I mean, all right, sure, whatever. Go ahead and come on up then. Let's go ahead and talk about that, Kenneth. We're gonna give Kenneth a chance to come up, because I just invited him. We'll see if he actually if he actually come up. I give people the benefit of the doubt. If they comment, obviously want to come. So Kenneth, I wanted to send you an invite. Go ahead and come on up, and we can continue to talk and have that conversation. And you can tell me why you think we should be conservative, Republican, or MAGA. Yeah, that actually is true. The military is largely conservative. I was in the military myself, so lots of conservatives there. Here's the thing about the military, though. A lot of them are conservative, but they're also law and order conservatives, meaning that if Trump starts to stay another term, you'll have a rebellion within the military itself, because they're conservative, but they're law and order conservative. Like, this is the law, right? This is what the Constitution says. So it's not going to be as easy. That's why Hegseth is appointing a bunch of bootlickers, because he knows that even though a lot of the people in the military are conservative, they're not going to let the president do something that's against the law. I mean, they're not just going to let that slide. You see what I'm saying? So that's why he's appointing all these bootlickers, because he knows the he knows the people that want to get on their knees for Trump, they're gonna let that happen. But a lot of the law and order conservatives, they're not gonna let that happen. They're not. They ain't with that. You see what I'm saying? That's why he has to appoint the leadership that he's appointing, to make sure that there'll be sycophants to just be on his side. I was enlisted. Let me tell you. You know what's funny, right? I was enlisted, and there was a huge diametrically opposed thing when it comes to Trump. The enlisted were all Trump fans, right? Big fans of Trump. But the brass, like the captains, the colonels, the commanders, the majors, they hated this motherfucker. They did not like him at all. Like they like the brass viewed him as a complete and total clown. Now, of course, your base may vary, right? Your base may vary, but on mine, yeah, the brass did not like this motherfucker at all. The brass hated Trump, but the enlisted were all big fans. The enlisted were big fans, but the brass did not like this guy, like at all. And it kind of makes sense because, like, again, if you look at the education breakdown, in order for you to become an officer, you need a bachelor's or a master's degree in order to become an officer. And who voted against Trump in the last election? Mostly the more educated. So even if a lot of the brass are probably Republicans, they're Republicans that don't like Trump. You know what I mean? Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of the brass is conservative. But they don't like him. They don't like at all. They hate him as a person. That's one thing I've seen. The Never Trump Republicans they're either libertarian, who disagree with Trump's like economic moves, or they're law and order conservatives. Like they like things constitutional, the way that they are. You know what I mean? They're the type of Republicans who were against his moves on birthright citizenship, because the 14th Amendment says this. So if you want to stop birthright citizenship, you need to put an amendment in. That's what they were all about. You know what I mean? Now, of course, I still disagree with all their policies and their, and their things about and their support for capitalism. Of course, that, right? But they were very like by the book, law and order type of people, which is why, like I said, Hegseth is putting in like bootlickers, because he knows that they're gonna let like illegal shit pass when everybody else wouldn't. All right, guys. All right, y'all. We just waiting. This is definitely gonna be a slow night, man. Yeah, this is definitely gonna be a slow night. I've only gotten one call, one guest. So yeah, if you would like to call in, I'm seeing, oh, there we go. Give me 1 sec, guys. We're gonna bring you guys all up. Thank y'all so much. All right, so I see two friendlies. Trill, I'm gonna bring you up in a second. I'm bringing Cash and Splinter up first. Trill, I'm bringing you up in a second. All right. All right. So Splinter, you loaded first. How's it going? Are you at least 18? And are you Republican, conservative, or MAGA?
What's up, man? I'm Republican. Hey, do you know what per capita means?
Yeah. What about it?
Okay, so when I say that the black community commits 8% higher.
All right. So, Splinter, why should black people be Republican, conservative, or MAGA?
But you guys don't alive each other at 8 times the rate than any other race, though. But
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to Cash, because we're gonna talk about the subject. We're not gonna talk about what you're talking about. We're gonna talk about the subject. Okay, don't come to colonize this place. No, Spencer. No, we're not doing that. All right, we're not doing we're not doing another topic. The topic is, why should black people be Republican, conservative, or MAGA? Not your racist opinions. All right, we're gonna go ahead and bring Trill up for a second. No, Splinter, nobody's running. We're just not gonna talk about that subject. We're just not gonna talk about that subject. Like it's very, very simple, bro. Just respect the subject. Splinter, if you're gonna talk about the subject, that's fine. But we're not gonna talk about anything else but the subject. Nobody's running from anything. Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna talk about what you want to talk about. Don't colonize the space. It's that simple.
In fact, one could say he's actually running from our subject.
Exactly. He's running from our subject. All right, cool. He said he'll talk about the subject. Great. So let's we'll bring him back up. All right, great. So
okay,
Spencer, why should black stop?
Bro,
Why should black people stop? Why should black people be
What?
Republican?
Most black people are Democrats, bud.
Hey, stop. Why should black people be Republican, conservative, or MAGA?
well, do you believe in the nuclear family?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so that's what Republicans push. The Democrats don't push that, dude.
No, actually, Democrats push the fact that all families are valid, even if you're a single if you're a single father, if you're a single mother. Shut up real quick. So even if you're a single father, a single mother, like if you're living with your grandparents, your aunts and uncles because your parents are just not around, those are outside of the nuclear family. Hey, Spencer, I'm gonna need you to be quiet and actually engage with the topic instead of doing the snarky shit.
Are you gonna monologue, bro?
I'm going to shut up. I'm going to respond to what you're saying. Your claim was that Republicans push the nuclear family and Democrats don't. What Democrats push is that all families are valid, including those that are not the typical nuclear family.
The ones without a father?
Because yes, the ones without a father are still valid. Because you just don't want to talk. I'm good, bro. We're not doing that. All right. So Yellow, how's it going, Yellow? Are you at least 18? And are you Republican, conservative, or MAGA?
Hi, I am at least 18. I am none, which is why I kind of asked. I was like, does it matter if you don't agree with the prompt? It was a question I asked in the chat, and like, I'm not, but yeah. If I can't be here, I'll just drop. That's fine. No,
you could be here. I was just asking, do you agree? Do you think that black people should be Republican, conservative, or MAGA?
I think I feel like it depends on your personal like lived experience, what you like, obviously your religion, your cultural beliefs, and just because as we know, like here in America, a lot of black people are Christian, and Christians tend to, if not Christian, like even if you're Muslim, like I would say the two religions tend to have more conservative beliefs. But we also see that a lot of like the black Christians in America tend to, whether like not just black Christians, but like black Christians and black Muslims, they do tend to vote blue versus red. And I think they do recognize that, yes, the Republican Party shares that same religion, like those same conservative values, but also, which, you know, like I said, whether you're Muslim or Christian, I know that obviously black people in America are more than Christian and Muslim, but I'm only picking those two because that's the majority. So I'm just, you know, so black religious people in America do see the conservative values in the Republican Party. However, the Democratic Party, the values tend to favor minority groups more. So I do understand why there are a lot of black people who do lean to blue, but I do understand, because me being a Christian myself, I do know a lot of black Christians. I know more who are Democrats, but I do know, and I do have friends who are MAGA. Well, they wouldn't say they're MAGA, but they voted for Trump. They are pro-Trump, and they're black. So I get why I don't vote, me personally. just for my own specific like religious, I don't feel that any party is representation of my Christian values, so I just don't vote. But I do know that there are people who have a problem with that, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. I would argue this, right? I'll argue that the Democrats actually support Christian values more than the Republicans.
I see the Christian, I think that I agree. I will say, I don't know if I agree. I see both. I don't think that any party does, but I do see Christian values in the Democratic parties when it comes to, caring for those who are in need. It's a well-known fact that people always say it on the internet, which is true. It's better to be poor in the North than in the South.
Way better.
When you literally so I do see a lot of Christian values, but I do know in the Democratic Party, but I do know that for a lot of Christians who are conservative, if not Christians, even some Muslims as well, but I'm just speaking on Christians right now. But those Black Christians who tend to be conservative, a big point of theirs is, like you said, the nuclear family and also the abortion problem.
Yeah, abortion, gay people, and nuclear family. My entire issue with that is that there are more family types out there than just the mother, father, and the children, right? A lot of people out there live with a single father or a single mother. A lot of people out there live with their aunts and uncles because their parents died. You know what I'm saying? So if we're saying we're going to push the nuclear family, you're forgetting about maybe 40 to 50% of families out there don't have their parents. Some parents are shitty. Yeah, I mean, some mothers and fathers aren't good. So we shouldn't push nuclear families. We should be pushing healthy families. The reason why people think the nuclear family is a lot better is mostly due to our social bias. Now, not everybody is a jerk off or an asshole, right? Yes, 2 parents in the house is good for children because, the economics of that works out better. Everyone knows that, right? But the issue is that it's more tied to the economic state because yes, single mothers are more likely to be poor. Grandparents who are retired are not going to have as much money, et cetera, et cetera. But if you have 2 parents in a household, whether that be 2 fathers or 2 mothers, if they're economically viable and they're stable people, they're going to raise healthy children. What the Democrats are saying is that these are economically viable or familial families that we can all have, and it's not just the mother, the father, and the children. No matter what the makeup of the parents are, if they're psychologically well and if they're economically well off, you're going to have a good family. And whenever I hear Christians talk about, Republicans support the nuclear family, all they support is having mother, father, children. That's what they support. They don't care. They don't give a damn if the dad is abusive. They don't care if the mother is an alcoholic that gets into accident with her kids. All they want to see is mother, father, family. They don't care about the health of the family.
I could see that. I can't really. Okay, so because I don't want to, speak into that just simply because I'm not going to lie, I'm not too well versed because I don't want to make I don't want to go off of just my general understanding without doing further research, just because from what I've seen, when I do take out time to look into both, when I look into the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, I think that I don't hear from either party. I won't say that the Democratic Party pushes for a healthy family per se. I think that they just are in support of all family types. And the Republican are just in support of the nuclear family, but I don't think that I've never really heard, and I could be wrong because like I said, I'm not fully well versed on this particular topic, but I don't think I've ever heard, I've never heard anyone, any party really emphasize the health of the parents involved, whether nuclear or a single parent home. Me personally, I do obviously prefer a 2-parent home. I think most people would, but like you said, we have situations where parents die, widows, widowers. We have parents who are abusive or things happen, so we live in a fallen world. So we're not always going to have that 2-parent household. But I will say that something I do agree with the Republican Party is that there is I don't even think that this is just a Republican Party, but I'm just saying because obviously this is more of their lane. I do agree with the 2-parent household simply because number one, it is a two-parent household that's healthy, not just any two-parent household, but a two-parent household that is healthy psychologically, that's doing well economically. Even if, like, let's say your parents aren't doing well financially, two incomes, whether it's little, is still better than just one income. But yeah, I think for me, I do agree that I wouldn't say that the Democratic Party pushes more Christian values. I wouldn't say the Republican Party pushes more Christian values. I think that each party does push some form of Christian values. And obviously I'm a Black woman, so if I was to vote, there is I will say I do have a high, there's a bigger chance I would vote blue, but I know that is partly just because of programming and just my upbringing.
Here's what I would say, right? It's like when it comes to the two-parent household and everything like that, is like nobody has an issue with that. So I'll always question, where do people get that Democrats either don't want or are against or don't care about a two-parent household? That's just normal, regular society. Nobody has an issue with that. So I think.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So it's like I've always kind of wondered, where do folks get that from? What not me. I'm not even really a Democrat. What I support is policies that are good for any type of family structure that you have, which is why I support things such as, universal health care, parental leave, guaranteed housing, et cetera, et cetera. And when I support like a more of an expansive welfare state, right? But when you look at the Republicans, they really don't support an expansive welfare state, such as universal health care or parental leave or universal education or, free lunch. There are Republicans who are against feeding kids at school. So it's like when we say, oh, they're more for the family, I'm like, what are y'all? No, they're not. They don't even want to feed kids at school. So
I think that the reason why people say that the Democratic Party is not for the nuclear family is because the Democratic Party supports LGBTQ. And a lot of people, you can't be for. So there are people who believe that you can be for the nuclear family. You can be a Democrat who is for the nuclear family and also support non-nuclear families, such as like the LGBTQ. Yeah. But a lot of people don't. They're like, no, it's either if you are for the nuclear family, then you have to be anti-LGBTQ because they believe that the LGBTQ is a threat to the nuclear family.
And that's a great thing. They're not. That's what you're saying. Like, they're not.
I don't know where I stand. I think I really don't. I see both. I don't, because I think it's weird. Like, I will never support, and I'm just being honest, I will never support LGBTQ just because it's against my religious beliefs. However, I'm still like, I wouldn't say that. But there's this part of me where it's just like, well, I don't want to, although I will never support it, who am I to get in the way of someone else's free will?
Yeah, like, here's two things that I would say. When people say support it, what exactly do we mean by that?
So support means that, like, you are fine with living in a society that is okay. For example, let's say support, meaning that, okay, some people believe that America, when Obama allowed, what was the law again? That the law that allowed gay marriage, I forgot the proper whatever.
He didn't pass any law about that. That went to the courts. It was Oberville v. Hodges. The courts decided that, not Obama.
Okay, well, yeah. But during the Obama era, when gay marriage was legalized, a lot of people saw that America was supporting LGBTQ. But to me, I was like, well, America has, like, what happened during the Obama era was that gay marriage is now legalized but America has never been, it's never said like, oh, you cannot be gay. Because we know there are countries where it's like, if there is a hint of a homosexual relationship,
you could go to
20
prison.
years in jail or whatever. Yeah. So I'm saying that, like, so when I say support, right, I wouldn't legalize it. So let's say hypothetically, if all Americans had to vote for whether or not we wanted gay marriages to be legalized, would I vote yes or I would vote no?
Why?
I would vote no.
Why?
Because I can't give my yes to but then again, I would vote no for a lot of things. It's not just LGBTQ. I would vote no for allowing stealing, allowing lying. I'm not saying,
of course, yeah. I think those things actually cause objective harm, but being LGBTQ doesn't. Like if two people are gay, right? Like, what does that do to me?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to ask. Like, if two people, like, if someone rushes into my house, ties me up and steals my TV and slaps my wife, yeah, that's assault, that's robbery. Like, everybody's against that, right? But if I move into a new house and my neighbor's gay and he has a husband, what does that do?
Okay, so if I was to explain how it's dangerous, I would have to go into a whole spiel of like the spiritual danger, and I'm not trying to do that.
So that's not even gonna work. I'm an atheist, so that's not even gonna.
And that's fair, but I think like as a Christian, genuinely speaking, I do think that there is. I think that any what's it called? When a society allows, I don't want to say it because it's just, I don't think this is the platform for that, but when a society allows, and I'm not saying this is just for gay marriage because this ties into other sins, but because we're speaking on gay marriage right now, I'm highlighting this particular sin. But when a society allows us, not just allows, but legalizes a sin and says like, yes, we are allowing this to not just thrive, but our entire society supports it and promotes it. That, as a Christian, from my theological understanding, that gives way for other sins to begin to grow and manifest. Because like sin grows. It's not just because I believe that the reason.
So, Yellow, here's the issue. Your religion, does it control what you can do, or does it control what I can do?
My religion controls what I can do.
Yeah, it doesn't control me. So that's why the issue with voting based on your religion becomes an issue, right? Because you're trying to control everybody by your prescriptive. I'm not saying that, just I'm saying you in general.
No, I get what you're understanding.
Yeah, you in general. But like when it comes to that, that's why things like gay marriage had to be making it illegal, had to be turned over because they were doing it on a religious basis, and governments can't do that. But the second thing is just living in a society where your religious prescription, it rules over society, is automatically going to violate human rights, and it does that every single time. We see that in every country where the religion rules over the governance, what society does. We see that it violates human rights all the time. Like, for example, if you're going to say that we're going to make all sins, if a society allows sins to happen, that allows more sins to happen, et cetera, all right, cool. If is sex before marriage a sin then?
Yeah, it's 100%.
Right. So we should make clubs illegal.
I do. Well, I will say this, to be honest, I wouldn't be against that. And I guess I am someone who I've gone to the club. That was one of my favorite places to go. But I will say I can understand why. Let's say in America, I think it's different, right? So, which is why I said to you earlier, although I have my Christian beliefs, I feel wrong having I don't want to impose my beliefs on anyone. So that is a struggle that I have. But I also I'm not going to water down my beliefs because people are.
You don't have to water down your beliefs. That's fine. What I'm saying is that your beliefs can't rule society. It's going to violate human rights. If you make nightclubs illegal, you just made the right to assembly illegal. You know what I'm saying? And if we make the right to assembly illegal, we can make speech illegal too. You know what I mean? Like, what if I say, okay, I don't believe in the Bible. I don't give a shit about God. That would be illegal if we take what you're saying to the logical conclusion. You see where that becomes a problem, right?
I see where it becomes but I also have to ask you, right? So when we have these, so in these type of conversations, a lot of countries, let's say, and I don't believe this personally, just because of the way this country was founded, but there are a lot of Americans who believe that America was founded on Christian principles, right? So, and because I don't personally, because I have my grievances with how this country was founded, but when we see when we look at the beginning, like the most when we look at the early Christian settlers, historians would consider them to be quote unquote Christians.
Yeah.
So now you have to ask yourself, like, but these were the same Christians who also gave leeway for other religions to exist in the society, for people to have freedom of speech and so on and so forth. So we've seen that in Christian societies, there are people who are non-Christians are still given more liberty than than other countries who aren't Christian.
But the thing is, like, America is a Christian country in demographics. It's not a different country by law or by like right or by constitution. Yeah, the people who started the country were either mostly Christian or they were deists, right? Like they believe in some sort of God. But the country was founded on Enlightenment principles and the Magna Carta. Yeah, I mean, like limiting government scope and Enlightenment principles such as we're all born equal, no matter who you are, what you are. And of course, the founders didn't believe in that because people who look like us weren't equal to them. But that's what Enlightenment principles are supposed to tell you. So it's not exactly like we're a Christian nation just by demographics. If we're a Christian nation by law, we will look way more like Saudi Arabia. You see what I mean? Because if that was the case, a lot of the things that are illegal in Saudi Arabia would also be illegal here because they're sins. Yeah, I mean, the same thing Saudi Arabia does. They make things that are haram, which is sin in Arabic, as illegal. You see what I'm saying? So it would be the same thing in America if we were a Christian society by law. But in the West, we figured out a long time ago that the church ruling society was a problem, right? It was extremely problematic, which is why a lot of the European countries like changed over after the Protestant Reformation. But when the Catholic Church ruled over Europe, it was a huge issue. Even like in modern times during the Atlantic slave trade, the Catholic Church still ruled over Europe, and they even said that that slavery was all good and well as long as they were heathens. All that becomes a problem. That's what I'm saying. Like you automatically violate equal rights the moment you become a theocracy, which is what the founding fathers, at least they knew shouldn't happen. You see what I mean?
I see what you're saying, but this is my rebuttal, right? So yes, because obviously history does teach us that the Europeans, yes, although they were Christians, a lot of them were in support of slavery, but there were also a lot of European Christians who were against slavery, who actually spoke out and, who were the ones who pushed to abolish slavery. So we also see that, and even, okay, let's use the UK, right? The UK no longer is ruled by the church, but one of the biggest denominations in this world, which is the Anglican denomination, which is from the Church of England, still has great influence in not just the UK, but which still has great influence in the UK and in the United Kingdom, where it's a majority Christian society, because the church once ruled that society. A lot of the British laws were created from biblical beliefs, right? But that's also still the same society that allows Muslims to come and practice freely, that allows people LGBTQ to come and live there and not be persecuted. So we can't necessarily compare them to Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia, for example, like you can't even be a practicing Christian in Saudi Arabia. You can be a practicing Christian. I mean, you can be a practicing Muslim in the places like the UK and places like America. So it's like we can't. So because I'm saying this because I think that sometimes I'm not going to sit here and deny that Christianity has a very muddied water past, as it should be, because there are humans involved. Where there are humans involved, you will see problems. You will see, a lot of hypocrisy and just wickedness and evilness. And it's unfortunate, but that's the state of mankind. Right. What I'm trying to say here is that living in a Christian country, it doesn't mean that I think that because to be a believer also is to also give way and liberty for other non-believers.
I mean, here's what I would say to that, right? Because again, when it comes to the UK, they're not really ruled by the Anglican Church. They're ruled by the Magna Carta too. You know what I mean? That's where we got it from. We got the Magna Carta from the UK. Yeah, I mean, and the Magna Carta is the one that puts separation of powers and limited scope of the government. You see, you see what I mean? And not only that, it's a constitutional monarchy where the monarch is basically just a figurehead. They're the leader of the church too, but they're literally just a figurehead. They don't have really that much power. Like the king can't dissolve parliament anytime he wants. They have to follow certain laws and stuff like that. They still have to follow a constitution. They still have to follow the Magna Carta. So there's still separation of powers. When you get to a point in a society where the power of the church or the power of the religion and the power of the government are one and the same, you're always going to violate human rights. And the Christian societies that we're talking about, the majority of them separate that power. When we did have a time when the powers were one and the same, it became a problem. And even now, even in countries where the powers are not supposed to be one and the same, but religion has a heavy influence, we still see violations of human rights. Like you brought up, you see in other countries where, you know, being gay or gay marriage or anything like that, gay marriage is illegal, or being gay can get you put in jail. That was recently a law passed in, I think, Senegal and Uganda as well. Senegal and Uganda technically are not theocracies, right? There's a separation of powers there. But because those countries are heavily Christian and heavily Muslim, they said that we're going to make being gay illegal because it's against our culture, against our religion. And these are religions that were started outside of Africa. Nothing to do with Africa. But it's but because these countries are now heavily Christian and heavily Muslim, even though their government is supposed to be secular, the religion rules more of governance than it should. And now we have people making that if you're caught being gay, if someone kills you, no one's going to send that person to jail. You see what I'm saying? So like, that's the issue that I have with religiosity ruling so much over a society. You're going to violate human rights, and it happens all the time. This is not something that's just Christian or Islam too. Over in Myanmar, they're a majority Buddhist country, right? And Buddhism is basically, Myanmar is basically a Buddhist theocracy. They're committing a genocide right now on the Rohingya people. And the Rohingya people are mostly Muslim. And a genocide is happening over there. But they're Buddhist. It's a Buddhist theocracy. You know what I'm saying? So like every single time this happens, they automatically violate human rights. It's the same thing in Japan. Japan, back in the imperial age, Imperial Japan, back during World War II, was technically a Shinto theocracy. And look at what they did to the Chinese. Like every theocracy always violates human rights, always. Yeah, I mean,
but then again, look at China right now. China is literally the face of a non-religious society, and it's prospering. But China violates human rights.
Yeah, of course. Like authoritarianism is going to violate human rights. I don't think anybody disagrees with that, right? Theocracies, however, like authoritarianism and theocracies are basically authoritarian, to tell you the truth, but authoritarianism is always going to violate human rights. And I don't see a case where a theocracy cannot be authoritarian. It always is going to be.
But my, sorry, go ahead. I'll go on mute.
I just want to say, I think what people have a hard time understanding is that basically it's that like the intoxicating feeling of like something that sounds good, right? Like the people give you all kind of ideas that sound good, but then when it actually comes into practice, like you see all the flaws. Like having a theocratic government sounds good if you're into the religion. It sounds really bad when you're not into the religion, you know. And like I guess my whole point is like, can you see any future or any way that a theocratic regime could backfire on you personally?
Oh, you want me to answer that?
Yes.
Well, if it's a non-Christian state, then yes, it would backfire. Like if I was,
I'm talking about a Christian, like one that you agree with, like a Christian theocracy, or rather they claim it's Christian, rather to be more accurate. Yeah, like something that it sounds good to you, like, oh wow, like that can your future, not future, I mean your like another universe where the theocratic theocracy right? That's based on a religion or a sect of the religion that you agree with. Can you foresee those rules being used against you?
Well, yes and no. I would say that would I prefer that? Yes. Because I wouldn't mind living in a country that is ruled by the church. But I will say, is there potential for that society to one day, let's say, backfire? Definitely. I think that whenever humans are in charge, whether it's a religious society or a non-religious, whether it is theocracy or secular, it's going to, when a person is, we are human. So it's like, I don't expect perfection, but do I think that society would I prefer society that is ruled by Christian values? Yes, because I'm a Christian. But I do know that if you're not a Christian, if you're a Muslim, Hindu, atheist, then no, that type of society doesn't work well for you. It's not aligned with your life. If anything, it is oppressive. So I wouldn't expect a non-Christian to adhere to, the rules of Christianity. But yes, I would prefer it. I don't think it could I wouldn't be shocked if it backfired, but I will say I do believe the pros outweigh the cons. But I'm also mentally prepared for the cons too.
What are the pros?
The pros would just be living a life that is aligned with my being, because my entire person, like the reason, like my life is governed by my Christian faith. And it's not to say that I don't sin. It's not to say that I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm saying that like my convictions, what I believe is right and wrong, is all governed by by the Bible. Like that's what I live my life by.
I understand that, right? But here's a problem. Do all Christians have the same interpretation of the Bible?
No, but let me say this. What makes the core tenet to what makes someone a Christian is the belief in Jesus Christ being God.
Yeah. So here's the problem. Someone can believe that Jesus Christ rose from the dead and accept him as his Lord and personal Savior and still be a member of the KKK. That's a problem, isn't it?
Well, I will say this. Well, I will, and I know there are people who like to argue. I don't think that you can be an active member of the KKK and say that you are filled with the Holy Spirit.
Why not?
You can say that because you can't be a true Holy Spirit filled Christian and be part of a group that actively hates and suppress and looks not just to suppress, but wants to kill those who are different from them. That's not a feeling that is produced. That's not those aren't aligned with biblical values. It's not.
So here's one thing I want to point out. When the original KKK happened, right? The reason what they believe is that they believe that God ordained white people to rule over black people, and if black people are trying to not be ruled over, they're breaking God's order and they're being sinful, and that needs to be punished. So that's what they believed, right? And the punishment for that was lynchings and killing them. That's what they believed, because that's how it was done in basically the Old Testament. That's how they interpreted the world through their biblical lens. Because when you brought up to them the verse that Jesus said about loving your neighbor, you know what they said? You're not my neighbor. You see what I'm saying? So this is the issue that we have. Jesus, as far as I know, has never come back in these 2,000 years and says that no, this interpretation is correct and that interpretation is incorrect. So everybody's going off their interpretation. What I'm afraid of if we were to have a theocracy in this country, it'll automatically re-enslave black people. I know it would. And the reason why I know it would is because I'm going to suggest a book to you to read. It's called The Religion of Whiteness, right? The way that white Christians view Christianity is not the same way that we view Christianity. We view Christianity as altruistic. They don't. They view it as a form of racial hierarchy. Yeah, I mean, so I would suggest you to read that book. And reading that book is what really convinced me to say that if we were to this is why what made me so nervous about Christian nationalism, because Christian nationalism in this country is very, very much white led. Yeah, I mean, it's very, very much white led. So if that's the case, if they're able to take over this country and make it a Christian nationalist state like they wanted to, they're gonna re-enslave us, like automatically.
But then again, we also will say this: I don't want to harp on that because I don't think we'll agree. So that I don't want to waste your time going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But to the point of like Christian nationalism, one of the main groups that speak out against Christian nationalism are other Christians.
Other Christians. No, I agree.
You know, so it's like we can easily see when people are weaponizing and distorting doctrine and are using the Bible to justify their wicked deeds. And Christians, more than before anyone else calls it out, we call it out. Even for like, so I think for us, I mean, so for people to say that like, oh, well, you know, because I will say Christian nationalism is a problem. Like, I think that, to be honest, I think Christian nationalism is borderline demonic because it's idolatry of America. And I don't believe in the notion that America is God's chosen country and that God doesn't like, whatever. I'm not going to go too deep into all that. But yeah, so I don't adhere to that. And I know millions of Christians in America do not adhere to that as well.
I agree. I agree. The thing is, once you say that you wouldn't mind living in a Christian theocratic state, that's exactly what Christian nationalists say as well, that they want to live in a Christian theocratic state. But you both have different versions of that Christianity. And that's why like having a theocratic state, or someone says that they support a theocratic state, is extremely concerning to a lot of people, because which Christianity are you talking about? Are you talking about the hippie Jesus love everyone Christianity? Or are you talking about Republican Jim Crow Christianity? You know what I mean? And the one that's popular right now amongst the biggest demographic in this country is Jim Crow Christianity. You know what I mean? It's not yours. So it's like if every Christian was like you, I think we'll probably be fine, except for the LGBTQ stuff. But that's not what majority of the biggest demographic in this country is. They're not, hippie Jesus Christianity. We're gonna control the blacks Christianity. That's what they are.
I'm not gonna disagree or agree with that. I think that I wouldn't once held not the exact same beliefs, but somewhat similar. I had some, I used to once spew the same rhetoric about my white brothers and sisters, but over the past few years, my mind has changed as being more in their community. And it's not to say that but I've learned that there are a lot of white Christians who don't have that mindset. But unfortunately, the ones who do have that mindset are louder. And those are the ones who are so in the public space. Yes, thank you. I was going to say the empower, because of the Christians who don't have the white Christians who don't see things like that. Unfortunately, we don't really get to not saying we, but like the general public doesn't really hear much from them. And it's not that they're not speaking, but their voices are really like just muted. So I say that because I think that a lot of the liberties that we enjoy in not just in the Western world, but even in like African and Asian and in Central America, like the liberties that we enjoy in these nations are tied to the fact that a lot of these nations are filled with predominantly Christians. As someone who is, because it's like, I can't think of, okay, for example, yes, we do have other nations, because majority of the world is either like, if they're not Christian, then they're Muslims. And obviously then we have like other religions, Hindu, Buddhism, and all that. But a lot of the nations that we love to travel to and explore are filled with, even if their countries aren't a Christian nation by law, it is a country that is filled with majority Christians, meaning that those Christians tend to have a lot of influence in the laws that are approved in their land. So we are getting to experience. Sorry
about that. Let me ask you a question. How did all those countries even become Christian in the first place?
Through let's be honest, colonialism. Yeah, let's
exactly. So they became, so these countries aren't the way that they are because of Christian. In my view, they're not that way because of Christianity. They're that way in spite of it.
Well, I wouldn't. Okay, so I wouldn't say this, right? And I didn't want to touch on this because it's just I didn't think it was useful. However, there is correct me if I'm wrong, but do you have the belief that Christianity is a white man's religion and they spread it to us?
Yeah, it started in the Middle East, but it's definitely a white man's religion now.
I don't believe that Christianity is a white man's religion. I think that there is history, there is history that backs that up, that Christianity, you agree, Christianity was started in the Middle East. And then we also see, I do think that this is God's doing. There's a reason he preserved Ethiopia to show that Christianity was always Ethiopia has the oldest Bible in the world. Like
the oldest Bible.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that. No, we're not doing that.
We're not doing what?
Nope.
The oldest Bible is actually the Codex Sinaiticus, which is in Greek. What I was saying is that Christianity was in Ethiopia, et cetera, et cetera. All that is good and well, but the reason why I say that's a white man's religion is because we have to look at what's actually under control, right? Who actually the seed of basically theology, spirituality, philosophy, all the denominations that most black people follow, all came from Europe. They all came from white men, right? The biggest, the biggest, like for example, denomination of black people is Church of God in Christ. Yeah, I mean, and that came from Church of God, and that came from the Baptists, which came from white people.
Which black people? Black people in America?
Black people in America, yeah. The biggest denomination is Church of God in Christ. Yeah, I mean, so it's like when we look at all the denominations, all the theology, all the spirituality, the philosophy, who was it written by, et cetera, who controls the finances, it's all centered around Europe. They're the ones who control it now. Yeah, I mean, now we can say that, black liberation theology is a black denomination that's indigenously black, and I would agree. They interpret Christianity through the lens of black liberation. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, I don't have an issue with that. I don't have even an issue with Ethiopian Orthodox. I don't have an issue with that because that's an indigenous black thing. I don't have an issue with revivalism. Revivalism comes from Jamaica. I don't have an issue with that. Voodoo is a syncretic religion. My grandmother was a voodooist. Yeah, I mean, she voodoo synchronizes the old African religion with Christianity. It synchronizes them both. And Jesus is just one of the other spirits with all the other ancestors. You see what I'm saying? So, like, you'll even see voodooists pray to Jesus to send that message to where he's supposed to send it to, or they'll pray to another spirit that sends that spirit where it's supposed to go to. You know what I'm saying? So that's what that's what voodoo is. So if it was like that, if majority of black people were those, then I would say, okay, whatever, we don't have to worry about it. But the majority of black people are not that. Majority of black people are not Ethiopian Orthodox. Majority of black people are not some indigenous denomination. We follow the denominations that were instituted by white people. You see what I'm saying? So at the moment, the control, the finance, the spirituality, the theology, almost everything that people preach nowadays came from white folks. You know what I'm saying? So it's really their religion.
And that's why I said we're not doing that. Not to like discredit you, but it's a really big misrepresentation of like how black people today look at the religion, how we follow the religion, just everything. I feel like Ethiopia has been like a long-standing like cop-out, even though Ethiopia was converted as well. But I feel like people go to that because it kind of confirms your own confirmation bias about it not being a white man's religion. And it doesn't hold up when you actually like go through the history of it.
I personally, because I have also, I'm not going to go so deep into my life, but and I want to also say this, right? So I think it's fine I think it's interesting when people are quick to say Christianity is a white man's religion, right? Because the denominations that we practice today are white denominations. But it's like the white Europeans got that from the Middle Easterns that are right. And mind you, when you read the Bible, the Egyptians walked from the Israelites walked from Egypt to Canaan. Like what a lot of people don't understand is how close like the Middle East and the African continent is. Very close. So it's like to the point where we can literally walk over there. Like it's a walkable distance. So with that being said, I think it's kind of funny that people give credits to Christianity, to white people, whereas people don't sit there and think, okay, well, they gave it to black people, but who did the white Christians get it from?
They got it from
the
ancient
Middle
Palestinians.
Eastern.
Yeah, exactly. They got it from Middle Eastern people.
And but wait, also those Middle Eastern people, keep in mind, they're still around. Like they still practice Christianity. Lebanon is still there. There are millions of Christians in the Middle East that have never left the Middle East, and they're still Christians. It's not like the Middle East doesn't even have the highest population of Islam of Muslims. It's actually Asia does. Asia has the highest population of Muslims, but that's neither here nor there. So it's like when people say that, oh, Christianity is a white man's religion, it's like, okay, so the the people in the Middle East who are the originators of this religion, so not the originators, but the people who are the first Christians, right? That whatever. And they're still around and they still practice it and they still have their ancient beliefs. So where is it? So no one ever sits there and think, oh, maybe the denominations that the European spread over the world, they got that from the Middle Eastern people.
But they didn't.
So it's like, in order to say that Christianity is a white man's religion is to say that the Christians in the Middle East no longer exist, and they do.
We're not saying that the Christians in the Middle East no longer exist. We're saying that the way Christianity looks today, it is a white man's religion. Because again, the denominations like Middle East Arab Christians and Lebanese Christians, none of them is Methodist. You know what I'm saying? That came from Europe. Like they're not Lutheran, they're not Catholic. That came from Europe. The majority of the Christian world, at least a little bit more than half of it, is Catholic. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
so
but my thing is when you see the old Catholic, like let's say like the older churches, like the Catholic Church, the Anglican Church, the Methodist Church, you see a lot of like their rituals, their liturgy. You see the similarities in the way they carry out their services with the Orthodox Middle Eastern churches. So although and like I said, what makes someone a Christian? It's the core tenet in the belief in the gospel.
Wait, hold on. Quick question. Didn't Orthodoxy come from Greece?
Okay, isn't Greece right next to the Middle East? Is it like literally right next to the Middle East? When you look at people who from,
but
so
not
even
Middle Eastern, so.
But there are different orthodoxies. It's not just Greek. There are several different Orthodox Christian denominations, not just one.
Yeah, like the Ethiopians. Yeah, I got
yeah,
you.
so,
no, I got you. I understand all that, right? We're just saying that we know where it originated from. Like I definitely 100% agree with you. It originated from the Middle East, but the way it looks today and the way it spreads and operates today is definitely a white religion.
I think that it has a white face, but I also think that there are a lot of things that have white face. Like something can have a white face. It doesn't mean that it's not real. So the face, so everyone's looking at, oh, well, this can't be the real thing because the people who represent Christianity today are whites. So then it's not real. But okay, when we pull back the veil and look past the white Christians, what do we find? Christians who aren't white and who have been practicing Christianity longer than white people have.
No, we definitely agree there, but again, how exactly does it operate and who controls it right now?
I will say this, right? Yes, I do understand why there is, yes, I understand the general belief that white people control Christianity. I'm not disputing that. I understand it. I think anyone with two eyes will understand. What I'm saying is that we need to peel back the layers, right? Like, that's the thing. It's not just staying on the surface. On the surface, yes, white people do. Like the version of Christianity that was spread out was done by white people. It was. But also what a lot of people forget is the fact, going back to the fact that the Middle East is right next to Africa. And this is kind of like my frustration a little bit with like when I have these conversations is, okay, for example, unfortunately, we know that the Middle East has been at war for decades now. And there was a point, my date could be wrong, so fact check me on this, but they're one of the many wars that has happened in the Middle East. A lot of Lebanese Christians sought refuge in Africa. So like there has always been a direct connection to the Africans and people in the Middle East. So we've always think about it. Why would the Middle Eastern Christians run to the African continent for refuge? Because that's right, something we've always done. Exactly. It's right there. So when people say that, oh, well, Africans didn't know Christianity until the white man, I was like, well, that doesn't make sense because the people who were the first Christians are closer to us, and we've been in more we've had more interactions with them than we have with the white. So like,
yeah,
there
I mean,
is a high.
The noticeable difference in when it comes to Christianity in Africa is Ethiopia. I think everybody knows that Ethiopia was the one that got it first. They became Christian first. They started one of the first Christian churches, et cetera, et cetera. Ethiopia is the holdout. But where are we from? Because if I'm not mistaken, you're an Ethiopian. I'm not Ethiopian. Trill isn't. None of us are Ethiopian. You know what I'm saying? So we're descended from Western and Central Africa. How did they get it? And then how did the majority of everybody else get it? They got it through colonialism and slavery. They got it through the white man. So yeah, if a white person comes to your shores and they're forcing you to convert to this religion, and it's like, yeah, this is theirs. That's their religion. Because we was doing something else over in Africa. We was doing Orisha, Bakanga, Voodoo. We're doing something else. We wasn't doing Christianity.
And I have a question, right? Where do you think that? Because where do you think? So when we practice, because I am, how do you think that worked out for us? Just asking. When Africans, no, when we were practicing like voodoo and all that,
it worked out fine.
How do you think?
It was working out fine, but the reason why Africa is the way it is today is because colonialism. That's because people were doing voodoo.
I think it's a mix. As an African, I'm like legit Nigerian, so I can speak on this. And my family, we're on my dad's side. So my grandfather, my dad's dad, we're only like 2 generations in. My family were once idol worshipers. Like my family had an entire shrine and everything. Like legit. Like my grandfather was next in line to be the priest of our whatever. That's a long story. But I'm saying this because my grandfather came to Christianity through a actual, like, what's it called? Through a missionary.
Missionary.
So this isn't like, I'm not reading from history books. Like this is a direct like family experience. He's the first Christian in his lineage. And my grandfather died in the early 2000s. But anyway, so what I'm saying here is I have family members who once practiced legitimately, like once practiced voodoo, like as not just practice, we were leaders. Like we have a shrine, like people would come to us to interact with the gods. Mm-hmm. And what they've told me, and it's not like anyone and that's what people have to remember. Like my grandfather wasn't forced to be a Christian.
He converted.
He met a missionary. Yeah, it was something he chose to do. Like he met a missionary who shared the gospel with him. And somewhere along the line, he had an encounter with Christ and he accepted Christ. That was it. So I think a lot of times the West pushes, the people make it seem like, oh, do we have that? Like, there's this weird notion that, they forced Christianity down everyone's throat. Or is there some truth to that? Yes. But there's also the fact that there were a lot of people who willingly accepted it. And it wasn't like they were introduced to it. And after a few years, they had their own encounter with Christ and became Christians.
Right. No, I don't think anybody disagrees with that, right? I think everybody agrees that there were people who legitimately converted. That's fine. There are people who did legitimately convert. But under colonialism, what exactly happened? Because before colonialism happened, remember we met the Europeans in the 1300s. They didn't colonize Africa all the way into the 1800s. For that entire time, African traditional religion was still the majority religion on the continent of Africa. Then after the 1830s, after the scramble for Africa, that's when we see Christianity and Islam become more of the prominent religions in Africa. But this happened in the 1830s. Why do you think that will be the case? For 400 years, African traditional religion still rules over the continent. But after the scramble for Africa in the 1830s, suddenly Christianity becomes the majority religion. What do you think happened there? Do you think they all just gave up? And because there was missionaries going to Africa for 400 years, there were still missionaries going there. Yeah, I mean, so when we look at this, right, for 400 years, missionaries are always going to Africa. We're always having these interactions, but all the way in the 1830s, when these nations are in chaos and everything like that, and Europeans see their chance to take over, and they finally take over, and then African traditional religion declines and Christianity takes over, do you think that was all just conversion, or was there a lot of force involved?
I will say yes. I do think that there was forceful conversion, 100%. But I will say, as a believer, a forceful conversion, if you act like, according to the Bible, is not a true conversion. But I do get what you're saying, like conversion as in like whether they had, like, even if they didn't accept Christ, they had to pretend just so that they could live. So I'm not going to deny that. Yes, that is a real thing. But also, what a lot of people don't understand is like when I was studying the history of Christianity in Nigeria, and this, I think the reason I have to say this is because like the way the West tells this story is it makes it seem like Africans are very like docile and they just like laid back and accepted it. No, like even when the missionaries, like this is part of Nigerian history, the Nigerians who were Christians were the ones who also said like, yes, they still fought to preserve their cultural practice. So it's not even like I think that's the problem. People make it seem like once Africans accepted Christianity, we just said goodbye to our ancestral practices or our cultural beliefs. No, like we still practice it till this day. Like I can show you a video of a Catholic priest, literally probably like 2 weeks ago, maybe like a month ago, of him saying, no, like this is our culture. Like this has been in our culture for hundreds and thousands of years. We're not going to stop it. But like we've learned to, because the problem is people have this belief that God is coming to wipe away your culture. No, like there are, like when you look at when you look at the spread of Christianity worldwide, well, let me speak for Africa. I can't speak for anywhere else, so I'm not going to say that. But on the African continent, Africa has preserved our culture regardless of Christianity. And we fought to preserve our culture. Like we fought to make sure that, like, yes, we accept the one true living God of the Bible, but we also love who we are. We love our identity. We love our language. It's why we can speak English and also still speak our tribal languages. Now, obviously, don't get me wrong, have there been parts of it that have been lost? Yes, but that could also just be due to time and modernization and many other things and colonialism and the wars and so many other factors. It's not just religion. But I say this because when the West tells this story, it makes it seem like Africans are weak and docile and just laid down and accepted whatever. No, like we have been fighting and we've never stopped fighting.
Right.
We've always fought for.
Right. I fight against the notion that Africans are just these weak, docile people as well. Right. I don't think that that's the case. But it's also the case that a lot of the spiritual heritage has been lost, because you just said that they were idol worshipers, or they were worshipers of other gods. What happened to all that? All of that spirituality? What exactly happened to it? Is it now demonic?
Yeah, me personally, yes, I would call demonic 1,000%.
That's the problem for me. That's what I mean. Your grandfather gave up his entire spiritual heritage to follow some foreign guy. Like Jesus got nothing to do with us.
Well, you know what? I can see why you see it like that. But guess what? The good news is for you is that there are millions of Africans who still practice that. Right now, there are people who still practice this. Of
course. But Christianity is still the number one dominant religion in Africa, and people decide their interactions with the world and with politics through the lens of Christianity.
Yes, you're right. You are right.
And this is a foreign religion that has nothing to do with us.
Well, I will say for you, because I'm going to say yes for you. For me, I think that it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And it's not because people are like, well, how is it the best thing ever happened to you if you lost your way of life? No, because it's the best that's ever happened to me, because I have family members who've been on the other side, who've been on the Christian side, and say, for example, when my grandfather became a Christian, he had to leave his home. Like he ran away because, long story short, they told him if he was to come back, our ancestral gods would kill him. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, we have seen, and that's why when you go to like a lot of African churches, it looks different than the Western churches, because like we see the men, like I have cousins, like direct cousins, who were initiated into these ancestral religions, and the spiritual repercussions, they're still living through it till this day. So a lot of times people want to make it like, I'm not saying, because
what spiritual repercussions though? Because my grandmother was a voodooist all her life and nothing happened to anybody. So
what to each its own. But what my family's seen, what my friends and people who I know personally who don't get me wrong. Are there people who practice voodoo and ancestral religions that are doing well in life? Yes. Like you can be prospering, financially, get married, have a great marriage, but like the thing about the way, I'm not here to preach to anyone, so I'm not going to go too deep into it because this is not a pulpit and I'm not a pastor and whatever. But all I'm saying is the repercussions don't always show up in your generation. Like there are things that we see happen in people's lives today that are due to previous ancestral worship. Like the devil comes to collect. When you become, that's why in the Bible, I have to say this really quickly and then I can just jump off. In the Bible, God is after the Bible teaches us that the devil, which I believe that ancestral worship is, I'm not saying that you guys have to agree with me, but that's just my conviction and my belief. But when you are a non-Christian, whatever, like the devil mimics Christ. Christ is after generations. So he's not like, that's why he's called the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Like he is after your entire generation. He doesn't just want to save you. He wants to save your generations, right? The devil does the same thing. So when you, let's say, whatever, if you're a voodoo priest or whatever, you're not just giving yourself over to Satan, you're giving your lineage to him. That's why a lot of times when the devil doesn't want your money, he doesn't want your gold, he wants your bloodline. He's after your bloodline. So
hey, Yellow Blue, I don't think you realize how anti-black this sounds. So
yeah, no, I need to say something. I've been holding it in, bro.
Go ahead. You can say what you're saying.
So a couple things, because you said something earlier where you said like what has practicing like our old spiritual religions gotten us, but you didn't really too much elaborate on like what the bigger point of it was. But also by some of the language that you use and kind of how you talk about it, I have another question that kind of been burning in me to ask you. Do you think that what happened to Black people, because of course you bring up Ethiopia, but most of us came from like Central, or South Africa, even, sometimes West, but do you think that it was worth it, like what happened to Black people in order for us to, as a whole, convert to Christianity?
No, not at all.
So what does that mean to you? So with it not being worth it, you don't think colonialism was worth it, or slavery or chattel slavery was worth it? But in the same sentence, you would say that it was God's will for us to be converted.
I would say that the method that was used was not God's will. It was not I don't think that enslaving millions, not just enslaving, but killing and slaughtering an entire race is a method that the Lord will utilize.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's unpack what that means then. So would you have rather us stay with our old spiritual religions and never have founded Christianity if that means that chattel slavery would never happen? Would you rather not be a Christian right now?
I think that. Sorry, is it me or is it?
Yeah, we can hear you. But go ahead, Yellow.
Yeah, go ahead, Yellow.
I was going to say I would not. I think that those of us who are meant to be Christians would have become Christians regardless. Now, what I will say is that I don't think that slavery, colonialism was worth it, because I will never approve of the method that was utilized in order for Christianity to enter these nations. However, what I will say is who's to say, right? Like, let's be realistic, because how do we know that the ancient African religions that are not Christian, because Christianity is an African religion. We're not going to debate that now.
No, it's not.
But anyways,
it's not. Christianity is not an African religion. Y'all really need to stop doing, and don't bring up Ethiopia, because that's
okay. I find it kind of funny because you already said that it came from the Middle East. So how could it be African if it came from the Middle East? It's kind of funny. But go ahead. I'll finish with
anyways.
No, I just want to go down this like.
But I wanted to answer his question.
Like, yeah, of course. Go ahead.
So yes, I do not. I don't think that it was worth it. End of the day, like, but I will say that the Bible says, like, there are those of us who were chosen before the foundation of this world. So one way or another, I would end up becoming a Christian. But I also want to say, how are you sure that the African religion that your ancestors once practiced wasn't forced on them?
I'm like, ma'am, we know that it wasn't forced on them because
listen,
those were their traditional practices. So those are the practices that they chose to partake in. And
but my thing is, Africa has.
No. Girl, no. Because you just came up here talking about Christianity was a African religion. So the reality is this, right? You're trying to, first of all, I want to unpack the reason. So you didn't think it was God's will in particular to slaughter, to the G-side, an entire race, to enslavement, all of those things. So the same question that you're applying, talking about African spirituality, that our ancestors practice, but you're not applying that to your God, though. Because here is the thing, right? In your Bible, he does slaughter entire nations and G-side entire nations. Matter of fact, he gives commandments on how to do it. So you don't get to sit here and say that's not God's plan, when in your own Bible there are literal whole instructions for men, and even to take the women after the men of those nations are conquered. That's in your Bible.
Can I also address some of the anti-blackness here? Because
Yellow, we need to address that.
I got you. So Yellow,
that's actually what I was going down the rabbit hole for.
Okay, got.
And I asked her some of those questions because I feel like she's being very lukewarm on it. Because really, because it's like on one end you don't agree with the method it was used, but it's like how would you have been a Christian without colonialism? But on the same coin, you condemn colonialism and imperialism and slavery. But because you can't have one without the other. And what I'm saying is, if you're going to stand on the fact that you believe Christianity wholeheartedly and you believe what we were doing pre-Christianity was demonic, then you go down that same rabbit hole of thinking the reason why Black people were punished is because they were disobedient to God.
I.e. the curse of Ham. I'm like, that a lot of
I don't hold those beliefs. I wanted to say this, right? So in the Bible, right? Let me say this real quick, guys.
I got you.
So in the Bible, we see that the 3 continents that are brought up in the Bible, well, if you consider the Middle East a continent, whatever, just to, simplify this conversation.
It's Asia. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, anyways, not necessarily, but the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. So the places of like Ethiopia, and when the Bible, I'm not saying modern day Ethiopia, listen to me. The Ethiopia in the Bible is, so like the Africans back in biblical times, they would be called Ethiopians, right? Mm-hmm. So the Ethiopia in the Bible is very different than the Ethiopia we have today. Like, whatever. I'm just bringing that up.
Christianity did not originate in Ethiopia.
I haven't finished. Can I please? I'm just giving a little bit of context here before I hit my main point. I brought up Ethiopia, not modern day Ethiopia, but biblical Ethiopia, is because we see that Philip, one of the disciples, went to Ethiopia and he met an Ethiopian man, i.e. an African man, because Ethiopian, the Bible called Africans Ethiopians.
Ethiopians, yeah.
Okay, he met an African man and he shared the gospel with him. That Ethiopian man was baptized. And he went to spread it. That's how the Bible. Yeah. So
that's how Ethiopia got it. So yeah, we understand that, right?
Let me finish. Let me finish. What I was saying,
ma'am, we've been listening to you the entire time.
Well, what I was saying here is that the Bible, when I say Ethiopia, you guys are thinking, not saying everyone on this panel, but there are people who are thinking that I'm referring to modern day Ethiopia. I'm trying to say that the Ethiopia when the Bible says Ethiopia, they are referring to Africans.
Right, but Yellow, here's the thing is,
but that's irrelevant because the Christianity does not originate in the continent of Africa. Right. That is a fact.
So here's what I was.
In fact, there's whole historical proof that it came to Africa in the fifth century by Europeans, specifically the Romans and the Greeks. So you cannot.
No, it did
sit there
not.
and-
But okay.
Yes, it did.
All right,
Yes, it did.
hold on, guys. Hold on. Let me just say this. So yeah, Yellow, we understand that when the Bible mentions Ethiopia, they're talking about like Africans in general, because that's the things that you need to realize is that Ethiopia was the only land that they knew. That's all they knew, because Ethiopia was a very powerful land at that point. So of course they're gonna, when they see a dark skinned person, they're gonna say Ethiopian, because that's the only land that they knew. You see what I'm saying? And because of that, like, I don't think just because a Bible says Ethiopia, therefore they're talking about Africa in general. They're talking about an African person, but I'm talking about Africa in general. Like, Philip didn't know that Lagos existed. You know what I'm saying? So we just can't say that they're talking about, right? We can't say they're talking about Africa in general, because Johannesburg was not even a thing back then. You know what I'm saying? So we can't say that. But they're talking about an Ethiopian person. That's the only person that they know. But the second thing that I was gonna say is that the reason why I was gonna say that, Kate, mute up for me just real quick, please. The reason why I was gonna say, the reason I was talking about anti-blackness is because when you talk about our spiritual practices, you mention them in a form of demonology and evilness, et cetera, but these religions that we had before, they gave us moral framework. We built entire civilizations around them. Even Christians who came down to Africa said, like, I think it was a letter that King Leopold wrote to the missionaries in the Congo. They said that the Africans already have a moral system. They know that stealing from a neighbor is a bad thing, and they know that because they worship a moral god, Bakanga. He admitted that, right? So to say that these are all devilish and demon people, when we already have a moral systems on how to work with, it goes down the line of what Trell was saying, that our spirituality is beneath the spirituality that white people gave us, and therefore we're being punished, and Africa is the way that it is today because of the spirituality that we were practicing. And that sneaks in, you may not be saying this, but the point sneaks in that we needed white people to save us. People say the same thing about Haiti, that Haiti is the way that it is because during the revolution, we had a voodoo ceremony in order to give us the courage to fight back against the French. And people say that we made a deal with the devil, and that's why Haiti is the way that it is today. Basically, it sneaks in the point that we were better being enslaved under the French. You see what I'm saying? So this is what I'm saying.
By the way, when you're done, can you put me on the big screen?
I got you. And this is why I say that whenever we denigrate African spirituality as demonic, it sneaks in these little anti-black tropes of the spirituality being inferior to what white people gave us, or Africa deserving and Haiti deserving what it is today, simply because we were spiritually dead or spiritually bound, or we were doing something inferior, or we're just bad people. You see what I'm saying? So this is why I always say, be careful of denigrating our own spirituality.
So you get it right, Bosi, because you're saying exactly the point I was going down. But to take it a step further, and what I was telling her, I'm like, listen, if that's what you wholeheartedly believe, own it, because there's no way that you can actually even, that's the only justification that they can possibly have, because you can't have one without the other, is what I'm saying. Because if you wholeheartedly condemn everything that came with Christianity to get it to black people, then you have to also accept the fact that you're willing to have lost Christianity to stop those atrocities.
And I
you can't try to sneak in the facts.
Look at my background, right? Because she said I was lying when I said that Christianity didn't originate. Now I got the timeline wrong. It was before the 3rd and 5th century. So here you will see. I'm like, no, Christianity did not originate in Africa. I'm like, and it goes down and it goes down that. So I'm like, so ma'am, when since when is Christianity an African religion? Because here we can go to Google and see that it's not.
That's the white man's son.
Okay, so thank you guys. Let me respond. I never said that Christianity originated in Africa. What I said was that what I've been saying this entire time is that Christianity was exposed to the African people before the Europeans got to Africa. It's always been exposed to us. So that's
not what you said. No, that's not what you said.
I have been.
All right. So let's do this. Let's say that maybe you just misspoke, like the words got mixed up. That happens sometimes. So what you were trying to say is that that Africa got exposed to it before colonialism came through. Is that what you're trying to say?
Only that's what I
that's fine. Okay, we got you. That's fine.
Now to answer your other part about the anti-blackness, let me touch on the anti-blackness now. So you said, like, when what did you say, like the British or the Portuguese came, so they wrote about Africans like having moral good, whatever.
Yeah, like this was it was basically what King Leopold II was writing to the missionaries in Belgium, and he was writing to missionaries in Congo, and he was saying that the only reason to convert Africans to Christianity is that it's better for European markets to make poverty noble, because they already have morals, they already have a moral system. So he like the European people knew that we already had a moral system. We didn't need Christianity to be moral. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm always tell people to be very careful about denigrating our spirituality and calling it like demonic or devilish or anything like that, because it sneaks in the trope that African spirituality is an immoral or bad system, and we needed to be enslaved in order to be civilized into Christianity. And I think that's
I'm happy to bring up Belgium. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt anyone. I just want to say this. Like, I'm happy to bring up Belgium because I feel like when people say things like, when we talk about the spread of Christianity, I think that we have to really look at what was, you and I reckon we agree. I'm not sure if we agree, but I felt like we had some form of agreement. The fact that there were people who forced Christianity and those who spread it in a non-violent way, right?
Of course,
when you look at, was not Christian pre-colonialization, ma'am. Like, I don't know why you are trying to do that. Like,
okay, I'm gonna go back to the anti-blackness because I think that's anyways. So someone like King Leopold, I wouldn't say, just from my Christian belief, King Leopold did not spread like whatever. Yes, he would people say, oh, he was spreading quote unquote Christianity. I see his Christianity the same way I see the KKK. Like, people weaponize God for their own wicked reasons, because King Leopold is the same person who
separate that. No.
Yes, you can.
No,
yes,
you cannot. No, because that is a cop-out. And that is a cop-out that y'all Christians constantly do. It is the whole argument that it's not God, it's the people, despite the fact that you all believe that your God is omnibenevolent and never changes. So your God is absolutely responsible for that. You do not get to absolve your religion. No.
Wait, you know what? This is what I'll say.
I just want to answer the anti-Semitism part. Let me just finish that. But anyway,
you mean anti-blackness?
So
anti-blackness.
Sorry,
I'm sorry, Yellow. Can you pause for me real quick, because Terry has been up here for almost an hour and they haven't been able to say anything yet. Do you mind if I just ask them one thing and I'm gonna get back to you? Okay, give me 1 second. Terry, are you still there? You can come off mute, Terry. Okay, we'll go for Terry.
On mute request.
Okay,
what I was going to say, because I can't condemn Yellow Blue or say anything, but Yellow Blue, to your point, what you were saying, when you say you separate them, okay, if you separate them, would you say there is any interpretation in the Bible that could justify what King Leopold did? If you say so, there's none. There's no justification. There's no interpretation. There's no way you could look at the scriptures. There's no scripture that could substantiate what King Leopold did biblically.
No. Do you know why there's none? Because there were Christians who, it was also Christians who, and mind you, these were European Christians who spoke out against what the other Europeans were doing.
The religion
That's not that, but wouldn't that be an interpretation difference?
Because the Bible is up to, what Trail is saying, it's up to interpretation. So the idea that there were some Christians that that spoke out against it. There were also some Christians that spoke out against the transatlantic slave trade. That does not mean that Christianity and Christians do not have a do not have a role to play in the transatlantic slave trade. Christians have been responsible for many atrocities across history. We could talk about the Spanish Inquisition. We could talk about those residential schools in Canada with those indigenous children, the transatlantic slave trade. And I'm like, and even in modern day, let's not get into how y'all persecute the LGBTQ community. Y'all institutions definitely do that, and women. So let's not get in. Let's not be oblivious. This is the typical Christian BS where they want to absolve themselves of any type of accountability.
Yo, what's up, man?
So my thing about this is, right, okay, so we can sit here and, because I'm not, like I said, I'm not here to try to proselytize anyone. That's not my business. But what I'm trying to say here is, like, we want to, we can all, so you guys are fine recognizing, which as you should, you guys recognize the atrocities that you believe the Christians have committed throughout society, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why is it? Okay, so why is it, right, that the same Christians that are wicked and evil and slaughtered and did all these things, aren't these the same Christians that go into North Korea? Like, literally, this is, you can fact check me, that go into North Korea to literally help other people in North Korea, whether they're Christian, non-Christian, doesn't matter. There are Christian missionaries right now who leave their comfortable life in the West, go to North Korea, sneak into North Korea, and help people escape.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I don't think anyone denies. I don't think anyone denies. Give me a second, Kate. I don't think anyone denies that there are individual Christian people out there that go out there and do great things. I don't think anyone denies that there are Christian organizations that go out there and do great things. My mother right now is in Santo Domingo. Yeah, I mean, I don't want her to be there because I don't trust the Dominican Republic. Yeah, I mean, but she's there right now in order to help the Haitians out there that are living, that are suffering there. Yeah, there are Christians who do great and wonderful things around the world. No one denies that. Just like there are Muslims who do the same thing. Red Cross, Red Crescent is a thing. There are atheists who do the same thing. I feed the homeless every Thanksgiving. You know what I'm saying? And I'm an atheist.
But I want to say
so we do that. So let me just say that. Let me just say this. Like, we get that there are Christians who do great things. No one denies that. What we're trying to say is that one of the most destructive forces, or I would say the most destructive force on the planet, was colonization and white supremacy. And those were tools that drove Christianity all around the world. And the white-led Christianity was the most destructive thing that ever happened to the continent of Africa and ever happened to the planet, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So we can't simply absolve it by saying, oh, well, there are Christians who did nice things. No, Christian colonialism and colonized, like missionaries, we will even say, are part of colonialism, has wrought damage across the planet. And we just can't absolve that by saying, oh, well, my mom went to Honduras and fed homeless people.
But we also have to recognize, like, right, during those times when these atrocities are being committed, who were the people actively fighting against and screaming to the world, these people are killing and destroying? These were also Christians. So as the thing about the world likes to highlight that during colonialism, like, we're not absolving these people for what they did. But during that time, there were Christians as well who fought against the civil, like, even down to like freaking the Civil War in America. Like, it was Christians, it were white Christians, American, who fought their own white Christian counterparts. Yeah. So, like, that's the thing. We can't sit here, just as when those people who claim to be Christians, and just for simplicity and just for neutrality, let's say they were Christians because they identified as Christians, right? There were also millions of other Christians who fought against it. So why is it, right, that we want to judge Christianity based off of those ones, but for some reason, history is very silent about the Christians who died protecting and making, like, you know, just announcing to the world, hey, these people, not just any people, but they were willing to go against their own brothers and sisters.
But history isn't silent. People say that all the time, that white people fought and died for black people in order to free the slaves. People say that all the time. You know what I mean? Because even in that what you're talking about right now, that still operates under the lens of white supremacy, because they will automatically say white people ended slavery, white people ended colonialism, white people freed the slaves, etc., etc. You know what I'm saying? Like the history's not silent about it.
I do want to get to the point of the
Can I
mission.
jump in real quick? I just want to address something real quick. She was saying.
Go ahead.
Basically, I do want to answer that question. I think the issue is that people like to pick and choose what they want affiliated with their religion, right? Like they're all fine with, oh yeah, look at all this, yeah, some bad stuff happened, but look at all this good stuff happen. And we're like, no, like if you're gonna take the good, you also gotta take the bad. But the reality is, it is neither. Like religions do not influence. Well, sorry, I want to read that. Like religion can influence people. Like, religion can influence people to do great good and great evil, right? But you don't need either of them at all to do either or. Like again, like there are atheists who do things that are good and evil, right? There are people who do things without who may have religion, but they wouldn't say that their religion influenced them to do it. No, like clearly, like just living influenced them to do whatever they did. So like the reality is humans have the capacity to do either or, and we don't need a religion to influence us to do it. So
but Trill, I would agree
to attach your religion to your actions. The reality is it's not attached at all. You never needed a religion to convince you to do great good or great evil. You wanted to do it because you wanted to do it. So why even
Trill, that's the only part I would disagree with. That's the only part I disagree with, because yes, people can choose. Choose to do good and evil, and it doesn't necessarily have to be attributed to a religion. However, in this case, it is. Right, because here's the thing.
We can get into the specifics.
Hold on, Trill. Let me just get this off. Right, in this case, it is though, because here is the thing: they are trying to remove the religion from any type of accountability. The institution of Christianity is white supremacist. It is misogynistic, and it is problematic at its core, and that cannot be removed from the religion. It cannot. The religion is built off the foundation of the religious text, and the people are following it. Now, what y'all can argue interpretation, y'all can argue, but they are absolutely following the Bible, and that Bible is absolutely influencing their decisions. It is the religion. When they were when they overturned Roe v. Wade, that was not a medical decision. That was Christian institutions decision. Getting into politics and trying to fuck with women's rights. That's what they were doing, right? When they were rallying in the 2010s against gay marriage, they were doing that because the religion said that homosexuality was an abomination, and they did that under the guise of Christianity. That is what they did. They said that. So again, this cannot be removed from the context of religion and the Christian institution, which is at its core problematic.
But Kay, the only thing I disagree with that, I'm sorry, is that they would have done that regardless. Like the whole point of white supremacy. But they don't get. But the difference is they can remove accountability.
Hold on, guys. Hold on. Here's what I'll say. Here's what I would say, right? Because I think I can get to like the crux of what you guys are saying. Without religion, good people will still be good people and bad people will be bad people without religion. However, it takes religion for otherwise well-meaning and well-assuming people in order to support horrible things, right? So without this religion existing, would normal everyday people still be supporting anti-LGBTQ rights and anti women's reproductive rights? For a lot of people, I don't think they would. For a lot of people, I don't think they would. Now, there still would be people who do that. Yeah, sure. There still would be people who do that.
When you say without religion, right? Are you referring to the Abrahamic faiths, or are you speaking as religion as a whole?
I believe it's all, but it's especially the Abrahamic faith,
especially the Abrahamic, especially in the West.
Well, I will say this, right? Let me say this. I think it's interesting we bring that up because there is, as an African myself, the African part of, I'm not going to say African culture because our cultures do vary, ethnic group to ethnic group. But my particular, the ethnic groups, majority of the ethnic groups within the modern day Nigerian nation have our ancestral culture has always been homophobic. It's always been true. I mean, I'm Nigerian myself, man.
I know you may be Nigerian. I'm not taking away the fact that, but here is the thing. But no, because I've read on it, and I know for a fact what you're saying is not true. Because the reality is this: that is being the reason that they're homophobic is not because of their ancestral beliefs, but because of British institutions coming into Nigeria and other parts, actually Christian missionaries, by the way, instituting anti-gay laws in there. So that is not true. That in pre-colonial Africa they were not homophobic. In fact, there are whole books on it.
Yeah, as far as what I've read, a lot of pre-colonial Africa was more ambivalent, or they didn't really have or they didn't really have a word for it because it was so rare. Yeah, I mean, so it was more dealt with ambivalence. Now, does that mean that there were no homophobia in Africa? Of course, there was homophobia. I mean, everywhere had homophobia. Like even China did. Yeah, I mean, back in those days. But like, was it as intense as it is right now? Highly doubted. Now, you're Nigerian, Yellow, so maybe you can tell us, in pre-colonial Africa, was it as intensely homophobic as it is today, or was it simply more ambivalent?
I won't say it was ambivalent, but I will say that that my particular ethnic group has a history of being
What's your
against.
ethnic group?
I'm Igbo.
Igbo, yeah, Igbo, yeah.
And then also I want to say my ethnic group as well. We have we literally, and I tell you, we just stopped this within this was even happening in the early 1900s. Our ancestral beliefs, we thought the twins were abomination. So when women would have twins, we would kill one of the other children.
Yeah, no, of course. No, they were,
and that's because of our religious beliefs.
No, of course. Like we get that, right? There were a lot of no one's saying that African traditional religion was perfect. I want to make that clear. I'm not saying that African traditional religion was perfect, right? There was still a lot of things that they did wrong and they got wrong, because religions that just tends to happen with religion, period. Yeah, I mean, but I don't believe that that conversion to Christianity was necessary in order to stop killing twins, or was necessary in order to stop being homophobic. Right? Yeah, they shouldn't be homophobic at all. They shouldn't kill twins at all. I think the Igbo people could have kept their traditional religion and stopped killing twins and stop being homophobic or not be homophobic. Now, I believe you. Like the Igbo people, even pre-colonial Africa, were pretty homophobic. That's true.
Yeah,
I don't deny that. But at the end of the day, I think right now it's intensely so, and it's so intensely slow that. What will happen if an Igbo person comes out as gay? I think people will kill him.
He would, yes, he would kill. And I will
exactly.
say this,
and that's an issue. That's a big problem. Was that happening? Now, of course, it was homophobic before pre-colonial, but did they kill him because he was gay?
I'm like, hold on, Boasty, can you put me on the big screen?
Yeah. Now, remember, Kay, she was talking about specifically about the Igbo people.
And I put in the Igbo people. So I asked, so I asked Google, in pre-colonial Africa, was the Igbo people of Nigeria homophobic? And it's and we have it right here. No, they were not homophobic, and in the modern sense, because the gender and sexuality with the Igbo people were fluid pre-colonialization. So that absolutely debunks what
you're homophobic. I'm literally saying that the practice, you wouldn't see a society that encourages a woman and another woman, or a man another man. I see what you're saying, the women to women marriages, but the way we see women to women marriages then, and sorry?
Oh no, that's my DoorDash, by the way.
The way we see women to women marriages then and now are not the same thing. And it's okay, for example, I'm happy she brought this up because I was actually going to touch on this. In ancient Igbo times, right, the children belonged, children would be referred to as, now, obviously in modern times, we take our father's last name, most people, right? But back, because usually and back obviously this is due to Christian. Yeah, exactly. So
I do know that Igbos were matrilineal. I have read that, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's when people say Igbo people would take a wife. Okay, for example, right now, if my cousin or my brother were to marry a woman, according to the way Igbos we see, oh, that's our wife. Like, let's say me and the host, if he was my brother and he was Igbo and he has a wife, we would refer to his wife as our wife. I'm like, oh, that's our wife. Like, that's how we see it in Igbo culture. So like when we say things, so my thing is, without context, you would be like, oh, that's weird. Why should call another woman her wife? But what you don't realize is in the cultural context, in the for the Igbo people, a woman who is married, when a woman is married into your family, she's not your brother's wife, she's also your wife. It doesn't mean I'm sleeping with her, but I recognize that, like, because we see, even for example, right now, if I have a daughter, even my uncles, my aunts, even like people who are not blood related to me, but because they're
we
people,
know that Black people are communal. That's not the conversation. The conversation was the claim that I'm like, in this case, that I'm like, the Igbo people were homophobic pre-colonialization. That was the claim.
Yes, and
what I am telling you is that I'm like, it's not just woman to woman. It literally says that I'm like, the Igbo people did not have a strict binary as it relates to sexuality and gender as it tied to biological sex pre-colonialization. That is what it says. I'm literally telling you what the literature says. And it's not just the sense of woman to woman marriages. What it's saying is that homosexuality as well as gender was not viewed in the same way pre-colonialization. That is what it's saying.
Right. So that's what I'm trying to. I'm not all good. That's what I'm trying to understand better when it comes to the. Just to make it clear, y'all, we've been on this for almost an hour, and this was about politics tonight, not even about Christianity, but it's all good and well. The conversations go to where they go to. All right, so it's all good and well. So tomorrow, let's keep it on politics. All right, guys, keep it on politics tomorrow. But that's what I wanted to.
Can we even have a conversation about politics in this country without mentioning
religion coming in? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, can we really? You ain't lying. But what I wanted to understand, Yellow, is that we understand that these wife-to-wife things were about securing lineage and everything like that. But what I remember what I asked in pre-colonial Africa, in pre-colonial Igbo land, right, and Biafra, if there was a gay person, would that person be killed or oppressed or kicked out the village or the town or whatever? Or would they treat him more with ambivalence, or treat her more with ambivalence, or treat them more with ambivalence? Because nowadays we see rapid hatred, criminalization, violence. That's what we see today, right? But you said that they weren't homophobic in the modern sense. So in their sense, what was that sense? Was it rapid hatred and criminalization?
Now that is what the question is.
Exactly. Or was it, all right, he's a weirdo, but whatever? Which one was it in pre-colonial times?
I would say they were, when it comes to same sex, it wasn't a supported practice, but I don't think that they would, how do I put this? Like,
they would.
I think it depends on the time period you meet them. I'm talking about pre-Europeans, right? I'm talking about pre-Europeans because.
Can I get another clarification? When you say that it wasn't a supported practice, what exactly does that mean? Because
it means that when we do see gender fluidity in the Igbo ethnic group, it would be during, like, let's say a woman has lost her husband, and so in order for her to have a family.
So wait, hold on, Yellow. I'm not asking about that, right? When you say that it's not a supported practice, what exactly do we mean by that? Because it's like,
it means if a person that is, when you were,
if like for example, right? If a person is gay, for me, they're just gay. It's whatever. So when people say, "Oh, you're supporting the practice," I'm like, "What do you mean by that?" I'm not telling a little kid to go out there and find a boyfriend. So it's like, when we say that it's not a supported practice, what does that sentence mean? Like me, if a person's LGBTQ, there's LGBTQ. It's whatever. But we're not telling little Susie to go find herself a girlfriend. No one's doing that. So what do we mean when we say it's not a supported practice or a supported practice?
When I say it's not a supported practice, so will I say that I'm not going to say that they were killed in masses? No, I'm not saying that they were, but I'm not also going to sit here and say that and confirmed that yes, the Igbo people were never had any, like, they never, what's it called? That the Igbo people never, I don't want to say hurt, but for lack of better words, that people who lived in same sex were completely safe during that time. Because they weren't. Like, just like I said to you, there were twins. Like, think about it. This is a culture that once believed in the killing of twins.
Mm-hmm.
And then also keep in mind that, yes, we were also like, so it's not that every single homosexual person was killed, but it doesn't mean that there were, like, it doesn't mean that there wasn't a time where it doesn't mean that they were protected either. That's what I'm trying to say. Like,
right.
It
So
wasn't
it's
something-
more that, I mean, and that, I think that's the kind of point that we're trying to bring up. Like, it's like people probably knew that he or she was that way, but no one went out their way to hurt them. Nowadays, people are going out their way to hurt them, and that came in with Christianity.
Actually, let me say this. I think that, so why is it right that the Western world, as Africans, we see the Western world as the place that promotes homosexuality? And keep in mind, you guys are saying Europeans are white man's religion. So why is it that the Europeans are the same ones who we believe are, like, when we think of, and not just an African concept, but even the Caribbeans as well. There's a whole documentary about this in Jamaica.
Caribbean too, yeah, and Haiti. There too.
The homosexuals, I mean, people in LGBTQ lifestyle, they flee to the West for safety.
Yes.
The West has more Christians, so they find refuge in predominantly Christian nations as gay people versus in their African.
Because as we said, Christianity doesn't rule.
The fact.
Wait, let me just answer this.
But LGBTQ people in the Western world have been
and LGBT.
Wait,
ma'am, LGBTQ people are more safer.
Yellow. Yes, LGBTQ people are more safer here, but that's because religion doesn't rule the governance. In Africa, it does. Like the reason why these laws exist in Uganda and Senegal and all these other places is because the religion demands it. Yeah, I mean, over here, if a person, like nowadays, back in the 60s, it was this way, but nowadays, if a person says, I'm going to put a bill through Congress to make being gay illegal because the Bible said so, he's going to get kicked out of Congress, or no one's going to take that bill seriously. But over in Africa, they take the bill seriously because the Bible, the Quran says so. The religion rules the government. Here in the West, it doesn't. That's why. I'm not sure if you heard me because she's on teacup.
No, I'm hearing you. I'm just on.
Right. So like, that's the reason why the religion doesn't rule the government over here. But like at least now, at least for the past 40 years, the religion doesn't rule the government. But over in Africa, that's what y'all. I'm not gonna say that's what, I don't want to other people, but that's what happens on the continent. The religions or the Quran or the Bible says this, therefore we're gonna make it illegal, and therefore, I think that it's kind of funny to me because it's over in Africa. They said that the West and the white people are trying to bring homosexuality to Africa as if that it never existed before white people came to the continent. Like homosexuality existed everywhere. Like it's not, Africans are not immune to homosexuality. You know what I'm saying?
It's not that they're immune, but it's our history. Like I don't want to speak for every single, because there are 3,000 ethnic groups in the African continent. So I'm not going to speak for 3,000. No, but I do come from one of the oldest ethnic groups in this world, and it's not that. So the difference between like you're right. Homosexuality existed everywhere. It's not just unique to the European race. However, what I'm trying to say here is that the Europeans have when you look at their history, right? They have been more open to homosexuality. They the slave masters would once, unfortunately, sexually assault slaves. Europeans have a.
Yeah, we get that, right? We understand that, right? They've been more open to it. All that is good and well. But what we're saying is that what we see in Africa right now with the homophobia, where people go out their way to hurt these people, that didn't happen until the Europeans came and they had that type of attitude towards homosexuals as well. And they made those laws in their colonies in Africa. And then when they left Africa, y'all still kept the same laws. That's what we're saying. That entire attitude of these people need to die, that didn't come in until Europeans. Europeans gave that an ideology. That didn't come from Africa itself.
I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna agree to disagree on that. The reason why I say that is because are there certain practices that none that I can think of right now, but there are a lot of practices that we see in the African continent today that have always been around before the Europeans came into the land. Like slavery has been in existence. Like obviously before it wasn't, because we would trade people due to like, okay, you're from a different ethnic group or whatever. Like slavery has always been a thing. We've waged wars with each other. When we waged war with let's say, I'm just giving an example, it's not a real war, but let's say like the Igbos went against the Hausas. If the Igbos won, the Hausas will then adopt whatever, ancient religion.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly. So it's like, so what we see in the African continent isn't because, and I think that's what I'm really trying to really emphasize here is that I don't like when people sometimes, I'm not saying this is what you're doing, but I think that people do this unknowingly sometimes, is they attribute the current behavior of modern Africans to Europeans. Like, no, these behaviors has always been in existence. Like before.
No, I agree, right? Like people are complicated. I'm not gonna sit here and say that Africa was Wakanda before the Europeans came in. There was complexity, there was war, there was mess. Of course, all that happened. There were cruel people. Yeah, of course. It would be ridiculous to say that Africa was this picture perfect place before Europeans came. I think it was better. It was way better before Europeans came. I think there were advances in Africa before Europeans came. You know what I mean? So what I'm trying to say is that when we're talking about the entire issue of homophobia, there's nothing that we can find in any literature or any historical, as far as what we can see with Africa in any archaeological or any historical record that we can find a pre-colonial Africa of people going out of their way to harm homosexual people. We can't find that in there. But nowadays, nowadays, after Europeans came in, now we see that there's people who are going out of their way to harm homosexual people. We can't really find that in pre-colonial Africa. So the only logical thing to deduce is that this came in with Europeans, because Europeans had that same attitude during the Middle Ages to go out their way to harm homosexual people. They already had that in their nations. Now they moved past it. It's really us who haven't. You know what I mean? Like, we haven't moved past of going out of our way to harm them. You know what I mean? And from what we can find in pre-colonial Africa, even if societies were homophobic, they didn't go out their way to harm someone who was homosexual.
And I can say this as a Black American. This is all across the diaspora. This is an issue. But the thing, but also, so is misogynoir. Like, all of these things are extremely problematic in their issues. And I do believe Christianity intensifies them. And I feel like we're in denial by denying that.
Well, I would say I don't think that Christianity, because in order for Christianity to intensify it, we would need the host. You just brought up, you said that, okay, the Europeans moved past it, we didn't. But my thing about this is, I wouldn't even say, because right now there are Christians, I'm a Christian who's African, who is against the killing of people who are like anyone, whether LGBTQ, like, I don't think that the way to, like, it's not, I don't believe that you should be in jail or you should be killed because of your, because of your sexual, proclivities. However, what I will say is, I don't support it 100%. I stand on that. Like, it is what it is. But there are millions of Christians who are against it, who are in African nations, who are saying like, no, like, we don't support it, but we don't think that they should be killed. But we're not going to sit here and we're not going to give you a Pride Month like they do in America. We're not doing that. But we are also, because for a person to sit there, right, and say, because even think about it right now.
Let me ask you a question.
Let me say this, right, because to say that, no, because we also, because I think that, let me say this. I think that the West does a really great job of painting the African continent to make it seem like, oh, we are just slaughtering people, because Right now, there are people who are gay, and yes, obviously we have laws that are implemented that says if you are caught in a homosexual act, you will be jailed for 20 something years. But there are gay people who are freely running around, who are not enslaved. There are any African or particularly West African. There's a famous gay man called Bobrisky, very famous, and not just he was wig, hair, makeup, and he is legit famous in not just in Nigeria, all of West Africa. So anyways, I say all that because even for example, Islam, right? Nigeria is half Christian, half Muslims. The people have heard about the Islamic terrorism happening in northern Nigeria, but guess what? It's also Christians who are going to the north to help not just Christians, but Muslims as well. So I'm saying this is because people make it seem yes, we see these laws, but you don't see Christians calling the police and saying, hey, there's this gay guy, come get him. No, we don't do that. I'm not sitting here and going to deny that we do have several instances, to be honest, of gay people being killed in the African continent. Yes, but there are also Christians who are protecting them as well. We have I can.
So the story is complicated on the ground. We get that. We get the story is complicated on the ground.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, we understand that. We said the story is complicated on the ground. What we're trying to say, what I was trying to ask before is that why do you think Pride Month exists in America? Why do you think that's even a thing?
Because America supports LGBTQ lifestyles. Okay, why?
It's because of oppression.
If you say so.
Did you grow up in America?
Do you know what Pride Month
Okay, so do you know who Matthew Shepard was?
No, I'm not familiar with him.
Matthew Shepard was was a gay kid who went into a bar and his classmates killed him because he was gay. We created an entire law around it, the Matthew Shepard law, where hate crimes were created, where that if you killed someone because of an immutable characteristic, you got a hate crime enhancer where it became even more criminal. Pride Month exists because of Pride Month exists because back in the 60s when there were bathhouses and clubs that LGBTQ people can go to, the police would constantly harass them. Look up the Stonewall riots, right? Or was it Stonewall by it was started by Marsha P. Johnson. Stonewall riots, right? The Stonewall riot.
And that was the only one, but there were multiple.
There were multiple.
Yes, that's
you know what I'm saying?
And
there were laws against being LGBTQ in the South and all over America, where there were sodomy laws, where even the act of homosexual acts were completely illegalized. People went to jail.
Mind you,
just like how
on the books, but a lot of states are still in the books. It's just that the federal government federal government trumps state, right? So let's say hypothetically that they were to do what they did with Roe v. Wade and return that to the state. They actually can bring sodomy laws back.
Exactly.
Because they're still on the legal book in many different states, from my knowledge.
Exactly. So the reason why Pride Month exists is because of the oppression all these people face. Would you not say that having a law against being who you are is not oppressive? If there was a law that I'm Haitian, my wife is Jamaican. If there was a law that Haitian and Jamaican people can't get married, you wouldn't call that oppressive?
That's oppressive. But
right.
I think
so hold on. So when it was gay people, they couldn't get married, they couldn't have sex, they were constantly harassed by police. People would kill them for being gay, and the police wouldn't investigate it.
I mean, also many of them couldn't go to see their partners in the hospital because the families could turn them away. They had no legal right.
Exactly. So that's so if all these things that we're saying to you, Yellow, you wouldn't say that these are all oppressive measures on gay people?
I think that, yes, I could see why people will see it as oppressive. However,
No. So Yellow, you're trying to get out of this, right? We're not trying to trap you. You already said if there was a law.
I don't think it's
that's kind of insane for you to say. Wait, hold on. Wait, pause. That's kind of insane for you to say, because you just said that if there was a law that a Haitian man and a Jamaican woman can't get married.
I wasn't thinking about that analogy. I was mostly focusing on the
exactly. That's a problem. You have such a bias against these people that you contradict yourself in 2 minutes. You just said that a law that against me marrying my wife would be oppressive, but a law of gay people marrying each other is not oppressive. That's kind of insane to say. right? So it's like that's what I'm saying. You have to. This is why we say that while we're so concerned about religion mixing in with politics, because these contradictions happen. You see what I'm saying? Like these laws against gay people, they can't even have sex with each other. They can't see their partners. They can't get married. Police can harass them anytime they want. Police can kill them, and no one can do anything about it. And you're saying that none of that is oppression?
No, I think that. Can I just answer? I'm not able to answer because this is a new. For me, for other people, it could be yes or no. For me, it's not a black and white. It's not black and white.
Okay. You're saying, well, let me just understand this. You're saying that you cannot say whether or not the police killing gay people and getting away with it is oppressive.
Obviously, I'm against that, but I'm not for the legalization.
So what I'm saying is that this is why Pride Month exists. They don't exist because, everybody be gay. That's not why Pride Month exists. Pride Month exists because LGBTQ people were oppressed in America. That's why it exists.
Also, to say that you're not for the legalization of it, you're admitting to.
What if there was a law that says that it's illegal to be Haitian in America? Would you think that's oppressive?
Yes, I would think it's oppressive. However, if it's the law, because these aren't like, to some people it can be like, okay, it's a black or white, but we have to understand that
they don't choose to be gay.
Black or white. There's right and wrong. And the thing is, you have a bias against these people.
Yeah, Yellow.
So
I didn't choose to.
You refuse to just admit that it's wrong because you know that your beliefs are homophobic.
Yeah, Yellow. I didn't choose to be Haitian, just like someone doesn't choose to be gay. The only way you can say that's not oppressive is if they're choosing it. They're not.
Let me finish. Saudi Arabia, for example, does not allow, you can't be a practicing Christian. I don't think that's oppressive. It's simple. I, as a Christian, I wouldn't go to Saudi Arabia.
I'm not going to. No, but I think it's gay. Ma'am, that's the point.
Yeah, and the thing is, Yellow. The thing is, Yellow. I would still say that's oppressive because they're a theocratic state, because they're limiting your choices. And once you're
a country,
right? I know it's another country. What I'm saying is that if they limit your choices that are not harmful, it's automatically oppressive.
Okay, but for example, right? But everyone's saying, oh well, they didn't choose because there are people who believe, there are Christians who say they were born Christians. There are Christians who've been born they were born in a Christian environment.
That's not the same thing, man.
Okay, but no, it's not.
It's not the same thing because Christianity.
I gotta get out of here.
Let me finish. But I think
because I've been listening to you talk.
But that's the problem with the West.
No, the problem with
let me.
I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here soon, guys. So let's go ahead and wrap it up in the last 5 minutes.
Because I'm tired of you.
Yeah, let's wrap it up in the last 5. Oh crap, she already dropped. I was gonna say let's wrap it up in the next 5 minutes.
Because I was sick and tired of her ass. Okay.
She did she leave or did she get dropped?
No, I dropped her. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah,
I dropped her. But I'm sick and tired of her shit.
Yeah, I gotta get out here in the next 5 minutes. So let's go ahead and wrap it up, guys. I'm sorry, Caddy. I'm sorry I didn't bring you up. I do apologize. Come back tomorrow where we could talk about politics
to be
again.
Fair, it was a black topic, so he shouldn't be up here for that anyway.
It is. Yeah, to be fair. But I'll bring it back tomorrow, guys. Yellow, please come back tomorrow because I gotta get out of here. My wife is already saying that you better get off. All right, she's already said you better get off. Yellow, please come back tomorrow. I promise. I'll let you speak and everything like that. Just come back tomorrow, please, because I do got to get out of here. Go ahead and wrap it up for me, Kay, because I have to go ahead and end the live. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. That was just ridiculous. If you believe that criminalizing someone based off an immutable characteristic is not oppressive, then you're just lucid. That is very much black and white. And in this country, literally, my own grandfather, not me, my own grandfather's existence was illegal because he was the product of an interracial relationship during Jim Crow. So by that logic, that is not oppressive. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I was gonna say the same thing. Even if because the only way you can say that it's not oppressive is if people are choosing to be gay. Number one, they're not. But even if we were to say that they were, once you limit a free choice that does not harm someone else, you're automatically being oppressive, which is why Saudi Arabia making Christianity illegal is oppressive. Automatically, you know what I mean? But hey, Kate, go ahead and come back tomorrow. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, guys. I'm gonna get out of here. All right,
Absolutely.
no problem. All right, guys. Hey, I'm gonna get out of here. Chosen, you can come back tomorrow as well, because I think I invited you up, but you might have gotten it. But guys, I do appreciate y'all for being here. I've been on for maybe like 3 hours. I got to get out of here. I appreciate y'all for following me today. I love y'all. As I always say, be secure, be affectionate, be wise, be flexible, and be trustworthy. I thank y'all so much for being out here.